bad looking at the sky, contemplating why I'm feeling like I'd rather die. If there's any reason that I found to stay within this life, it's gotta be my daughter, gotta never leave a fucking side. Word is born, I go to war for her and all that. This is real, this is nothing that you all rap. If you touch it, then I guarantee it's all bad, cause I snap back, so I ain't talking about a ball cap. Fucker, y'all just suckers and I'm harboring souls. My approach is the same as Dr. Marvin Monroe. Sharp therapy and swearing we are not even close. David Carradine couldn't hang if I showed in the roast. Got a bitch that's insane, so she got my vote. Similar to these, that's the way she got on the pole. Drinking liquor like it's water and I'm out of control. The Mona Lisa wouldn't smile if she looked at my soul.
Feeling like there's no shame running through these cold veins. Can't feel my soul, I'm out of touch and feel no pain. And I've been thinking that I'm ready to die. No big deal. Can't leave, I still got plenty of life. I can't be killed. Like there's no shame running through these cold veins. Can't feel my soul, I'm out of touch and feel no pain. And I've been thinking that I'm ready to die. No big deal. Can't leave, I still got plenty of life. You'll never kill me.
But I'm feeling like I'm guilty. No rest is the best that I will be. I got demons that progress while I'm welting. So my death will invest in it well-being. No stress, I'll impress if it kills me. Chop the screw, that's the style that I will bring. Homicidal necrophilia, so feel me, bitch. Cause I'm fucking killing the way you ever rebelled. And after going against me, no defense, and you can see what's still it. And you know it can't be understand that you perceive the jealous, but you won't offend me. No, not any rapper has a skill it takes. So they break fast like cheating during Ramadan. When I perform my book, magic like the Necronomicon. Ripping at the flows, yes, you know that it goes on and on. Kevin Gates on stage, I kick it for the audio.
Feeling like there's no shame running through these cold veins. Can't feel my soul, I'm out of touch and feel no pain. And I've been thinking that I'm ready to die. No big deal. Can't leave, I still got plenty of life. I can't be killed.
But I'm feeling like I'm at the point. I'll either snap, go crazy, or mass destroy. This ain't a sham, so don't blame if I act annoyed. If you question what I rap and try to match the source, trying to get spins like breakers on harbor floors. It's hard when you couldn't write a check for sliding doors. You can see I get spins like a laundromat. I believe I'm sicker than a hypochondriac. Yeah, your bitch clean and I'm calling it good. Pints all on my balls cause she polishing wood. Think I could if I want, but it's misunderstood. Leave blood on the walls like recording was shook. I'm depressed to the point that I can't just chill or relax, but goddamn it, I need beef in my life cause I'm famished. Plus I came to purge like bulimits at the smashing on a full stomach. But I swear the answer is I'm a bad egg like ovarian cancer. Frankenstein on a beat, race creating a master. Remix beautiful people like Marilyn Manson. It's alive when I'm screaming while I'm tearing up these raps. And I'm flashing bitches like Barry Allen in the sack. And I got your bitch nude, hippie hugging my tree trunk. For you should be a little like a fucking Ewok.
Feeling like there's no shame running through these cold veins. Can't feel my soul, I'm out of touch and feel no pain. And I've been thinking that I'm ready to die. No big deal. Can't leave, I still got plenty of life. I can't be killed. Like there's no shame running through these cold veins. Can't feel my soul, I'm out of touch and feel no pain. And I've been thinking that I'm ready to die. No big deal. Can't leave, I still got plenty of life. You'll never kill me.
For we wait for the new day, a town above the Sample.
Fantasy life. Some will listen, some won't, but that's just how it goes. I'ma tell you once, stop just stuffing your nose. I don't want none of that, I'm trying to give you facts. I'm just coming through spitting that shit, so relax. It's gonna be a ride, so buckle your seatbelt. I'm here for all the people that need help. Always looking for the hand, but they don't understand it won't be dealt. I'm on a different level, another degree now. So when I get up on stage, they pull their seats out, but they don't sit, cause the shit that I spit is so real. Motherfuckers know the deal. Coming straight up out the motherfucking city of steel. Never yield, on third base by the steel, and I'm still learning and earning, coming through in the burner, on a fat ass blunt for my brother in a urn. And that's just how it goes. I should have sung with that. That's just how it goes. That's just how it goes. October 1st, I'm coming to get ya. I'm coming through spitting this shit, I'm switching the scripture. I don't give a fuck in the cut, rolling up something so fat, better take another nap. And that's just how it goes, but I ain't playing. Horse stance got me yelling, about to go saying. These motherfuckers mumbling, oh, what are they saying? Writing fairy tales, Jack in jail. I'm the last up on the hill, take another pill, bet you will. Hold the steering wheel, hit the three-wheel, turn the car into a trike. I can do this shit all night, that's right, that's life. My man in the back, that's Ife. Everything is alright, holding it down, taking the crown. Been at this shit for a while now, but my mind got bolder. Brush off my shoulders, show you exactly how to do it. That's just how it goes. That's just how it goes.
Hey, what up, Lokesters? This is Loke Saint. You're listening to Uncovering the Underground with my man Skippy Ickham on Spreaker Podcast Radio, bringing you nothing but the best in underground music.
Now this speech is for the birds. Those of you born into this world different than the rest because of your gifts. See, the world has tried to reject you, hate you, and alienate you because of your gifts. To make you separate, to hold you down, to clip your wings so bird you cannot fly anymore. This one's for you. Turn it up.
I wish I was a bird so I could fly away. But I am no bird, so on the ground did I will lay. Take me away from all these killing fields of hate where we're held at bay. And make me fly or let me die, 'cause I can't take even one more day.
Every night when I pray, what I say, God help the love to fly high away. 'Cause I'm sick of the planet, devil, damn it, I wanna can it, that's why I shy away. Brainwaves in a telekinetical kind of state, I'm lying wide awake. I'm up inside of my pineal gland, and what a metaphysical man that is tied to fate. The mind might get grandiose, even though the world I'm living like a barrio. See, wherever the mind goes, where the body goes, and I keep my mind high, so what's adios. In a world full of snakes, they're striking with venom, open and beginners, beginning again, I'm a secular minimum, driven with a figure would hit him, it's only beginning together, every bit of the wicked rhythm.
I just wanna fly, but they don't wanna see the phoenix rise. Lay down and die, clipping my wings and hope I will survive. I wish I was a bird so I could fly away. But I am no bird, so on the ground did I will lay. Take me away from all these killing fields of hate where we're held at bay. And make me fly or let me die, 'cause I can't take even one more day.
It's like I'm looking for a witness with the path of enrichment. I'm trying to force out the wicked and pay for repentance. 'Cause I walk with the death like I'm sick, heart beats like a Christian compared to the rest. With furry curls on my neck, I'm trying to keep blood on my flesh like a bird eye. Wish I could fly away, like suddenly 100 miles away. Why? I don't really feel the same from my campaign, and I be feeling all alone like they can't hang. I'm in the valley of the death, about to take brains. I guess I'm kinda psycho-whacking with this octane. When you mix elements, it gets unsafe. Lonely mix with the Bible, get low saint. It's something gotta give, I'm tired of this war pain. It's something got me in a chopper with the whore thing. Step into a vision when I get to ride, you don't want to run up on the spirit, carry a victim. I believe I'm burning every time I touch a microphone. I really leave them hurting. Angels deceive them, will leave you a corpse. If you see me coming, you should know that I get ready for whatever. If you want it, we can get it. Double murder flows. Every syllable that you be hitting, people spitting at me doesn't matter. Chew upon the shits for the birds.
I wish I was a bird so I could fly away. But I am no bird, so on the ground did I will lay. Take me away from all these killing fields of hate where we're held at bay. And make me fly or let me die, 'cause I can't take even one more day.
They hate what God made. I unravel my DNA and I place it before the planet, and granted gets thrown away. They don't like that I'm speaking something that's different than common say, and they snipping my wings and shackle my body to hold it bay. But I really wanna bust up out that box that I've been locked in, showing everybody that I can take flight when the brain maintain that oxygen. Came with the pain that I hang with a few screws loose and a neurotoxin. Shame on the herds and the bang on the birds and the feeling of death that I'm boxed in.
I wish I was a bird so I could fly away. But I am no bird, so on the ground did I will lay. Take me away from all these killing fields of hate where we're held at bay. And make me fly or let me die, 'cause I can't take even one more day.
Peaceful best 7. I ain't gonna keep you waiting. Clothes under the bed. Clean it, what mother said. Super Soul Saturday radio, swing ahead. Small city ties, cold still in my eyes. Light the mid side of the bed and apply. Power and perfection echoes through my mental. Did it off my words, this weapon could shoot simple. No difficult incentives, we strive for blessings. Started off a rumor, but then became a lesson. Overmax confidence, dealing all alone. Mafia approach the store is more alone. Grown man status, the haters just gotta deal with. I don't need you, my records come with a sales pitch. Mine overall, discipline I inherit that. Never carried inside, focus on work drive. No time for time wasters. Go to my city plus favorite, please hate it. Magazines like 10 times. Ask Google about mines. Ask the fans about mines. No static connection, I connect fine. Hip Hop 89. See, I'm the inspiration of risk takers. Suicide bars, haters got wrist waiting. Music I lie 100, no downgraded. Peso best ever, music's hope waiting. Echo. Alright, let me go back in there, man. Everybody is copying everybody. Detroit's flow or Future's vocal party. No creative creators, just money baiters. A million streams is 5K out the basement. Imagine a million copies. These record labels are stressed, so they change the market. Peso is a stress, I sell regardless. 500 per day, look, my own market. My fan base is luxury to my product. Cooking up science, so later I sell the knowledge. Illmatic playing in my headphones. I can't even hear these hip-hop clones. Entire music business is a broken home. Doesn't bother a god, I just control the zone. Feel normal basis to most, I just embrace it. Y'all can't take it. I ain't rapping, I'm speaking to hard workers. Can't be lazy and complain it's not working. Super Soul Saturday. And my city was the best day. Straight classic for the masses. Had to be aggressive with my passion. Yeah. Super Soul Saturday. I'm gone.
Okay, let's start over. What happened?
My wife's car broke down, so she took my car. She went to clean my car out, and she found your CDs, and there were 67 of your CDs in my car.
67 albums.
67.
I had no idea I dropped that much music.
Be the bad man, to always have to be the ass no matter the situation I'm in, always having to justify my laundry list of sins. But do me a favor and take a minute and look at this shit from my position. Never stop to consider to take a gander at the bigger picture. Without this music, the soul within would rot and wither, and without a mortal coil all the snakes begin to slither, giving way to the pressure of a beast that's truly sinister. I can see it in the bones, bring it out. Hear the cries of the windigo, shake it out. The dead dwell within the snow, take 'em out. And you feel the sickness take hold, it's in your blood, spreading within you, it's so infectious. Give it a little taste, you see it's so delicious. Ravenous from the hunger that's become so vicious. You become a slave to your selfish wishes. Save me, my body is a gateway for all the things that can save me. Re-energize and reanimate fertility. Save me, my body is a gateway for all the things that can save me. Re-energize and reanimate fertility.
The first of a thing up and now I'm about to like a fuse to the flame, but I guess that's how it eliminate the pain. Every time we do another show, the mic is like a therapist. Pour my soul to top these noses shows when I blow, and the stage bursts of flame, and the face is filled with rage, and the pick cannot be tamed. Lay to waste your anguish, just immerse yourself among the waves. Let the music feel you, leaving nothing but your greatness to be claimed. This is what my heart beats for. And all who challenge this will be kicked out the door. Face down, ass up, with your blood upon the floor. No exception for intentions, aim to kill what we work for. Fuck you, bitches, keep it brutal for life. The day I leave this label is the day that I die. I kill the opposition, the recital competition. Ain't got nothing on our vision, you will fall if you convention, suck the dick in.
My body is a gateway for all the things that
inside come alive. Salvation is waiting for me to find the reason why I have not yet learned to fly. My patience is fading, and I won't stand around waiting anymore.
I'm sick of sitting here staring blankly at the door.
I'll pick myself up off the floor
with the strength that I need to engage the mold.
The power flows forth from below. Speaking of words to bring you home, inscribe the message upon the stone, fulfill the void and break the mold. Save me. My body is a gateway for all the things that can save me. Re-energize and reanimate. Purchase it today. Save me. My body is a gateway for all the things that can save me. Re-energize and reanimate. Purchase it today. Save me. My body is a gateway for all the things that can save me. Re-energize and reanimate. Purchase it today. Save me. My body is a gateway for all the things that can save me. Re-energize and reanimate. Purchase it today.
Yeah. Whoa. Whoa. The entertainment age is here at last. Too many racing, but not enough gas. Marketing off a bill of fuels. It's not anymore when there are no rules. Yeah, and I'm just like any other guy. I try to stick a finger in the pie. Sometimes love it ain't enough. The crust is too thick, my gun is getting tired. And we just keep on doing what we do. No time for me, I got no time for you. You better get with it, or you will never get this. So la 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 la. All I really gotta say to you, you get treated the way you do. So when I'm old and lonely, you'll be old and better. I'll see you later, 'cause I am a content creator.
is that a statement or a question? Some you'll regret and others will stay until you're ancient. Some will love you, some will play you until it hurts. Don't you forget, pick them well or you might burn. Hard to tell what's straight, what's real from what I see. Hard to separate partners, friends, and enemies. What is fact? I can't help but to rack in my brain. The same facts of me wishing they rotten in chains. No escape from this, killing the competition. Never rest until we've died or my foes are beaten. Play it smart before you go for the gun. They all come at you first when you're enemy number one. Every day was evolution, the shit was steady. But I felt the cracks sinking the ship one of many. Had to check the way your ego was set to inflate. Breaking things apart, making things hard, and worlds change. The world is turning, I'm falling upwards. Can you reach out and save me? The hope I'm calling for is you. Oh, can I change my fate? I prepare for every case, don't think me blind. Even if I lose, I gain what is left behind. A memory lost, a lesson I'm taught. I even the odds heavily by making my mark. Get in here and fuck with me, Demo Demon, PA. Killing all these rappers that claim to be such a big name. It's kinda funny when you think about it. You brag about your contacts, but lack the songs to back shit. Where's that quality now? It never came back after a visit to OJ's house. Yeah, I got my fair share of people that I don't like, but I don't hide it no more. The feelings that I hold tight. This the best I've ever felt, this the hand I've been given. So when I lay the cards down, it's best to pray for forgiveness. I'll admit I have an issue, a clouded mind. Yeah, I need you to save me, pull me up, I'm out of time. The world is turning, I'm falling upwards. Can you reach out and save me? The hope I'm calling for is you. Oh, can I change my fate? The world is turning, I'm falling upward. Can you reach out and save me? The hope I'm calling for is you. Oh, can you change my fate?
Time and time again, they try to hold me down. They try to tell me that I won't be anything. They try to tell me I'm a fuck up, that I'm garbage. And I just smile, cause you're witnessing the rise of a motherfucking king. Yeah. Hallucinations of horror haunting my horrid mind. Simulated senses satisfied by scenes of brutal crime. I wanted to give this bitch my knife tip, but by the way she's screaming and moaning, I could tell that she fucking liked it. I've been waiting for the right fit and the right time to cut the lights and leave these motherfuckers lifeless. I've been loving life, well, lifeless. See, I'm a psycho, but hey, yo, I digress. And I just digest all of your innards. I'm a sicko and I'm gathering up food for the winter. I'm the bringer of pain and I am the master of splinters. I'm the shredder of flesh inside of the sewer of sickness. I will gather your blood in barrels to dump them in the river. Make a cleansing of crimson, create a sea of forgiveness. I don't gotta dream about it cause I live this. A nightmare every day and it be endless. I pen these thoughts down on loose leaf. Won't ever lose sleep now. Watch me creep through the shadows like a cool freak. Skippy Yickum got the game on lock. You just got a new neighbor, now this ain't your block. Cause I've been dealing with some pent-up aggression. I took the curse that I was given and turned it into a blessing. All my anger and hatred mixed with sorrow and depression into each and every sentence. Use my music as my weapon. They try and tell me that I'm merely a waste, till I climbed out of the sewer spitting shit in their face. Till I climbed out of these ruins and I laid them to waste. Using hate as motivation, it was fuel for the race. And now I'm first place, and I'll be flying in my own lane. Fans wanting pictures of me, you was still a known name. And you was still a broke lame. Isn't it funny how the tides change, motherfucker? I'm one of the dopest out, no need to scream and shout. I've earned my clout, y'all think different, shut your fucking mouth. Cause here's my thesis, I'm just like Jesus for letting myself down, for believing these people could conceive this. Life full of better lands, I'm not a better man, I'm just a seed of sin. I'm bracing for the end, you'll never breathe again. I be coming with the switchblade on me. Got the skin tight gloves and the all black hoodie, cause I'm ready to wreck this shit. I'm making my own exodus, subjected to the fact that I'm a slave to my own deficit. Deaf to all these thoughts because I really can't connect with them. Connecting is the method that I use when I'm subjecting them. A bright flash in the land of the dead. A beautiful butterfly I lured into my web. I sweet talked you, honey, now you're lying on my bed. Well, I'm about to pound you till you're crying, cause I'm fucked in the head. There's no turning back, cause if my mind says do it, it's like 30 seconds later I'm gonna get right to it. I try to block it out, I try to turn the volume down, but all these voices screaming at me, now they're getting way too loud. I'm blinded, I'm lost inside this dark haze. So much rage, I be stuck in my old ways. I need to try to find a piece of joy, like when I stand against opponents and I leave them destroyed, because
they try and tell me that I'm merely a waste, till I climbed out of the sewer spitting shit in their face, till I climbed out of these ruins and I laid them to waste. Using hate as motivation, it was fuel for the race, and now I'm first place, and I be flying in my own lane. Fans wanting pictures of me, you was still a known name, and you was still a broke lame. Isn't it funny how the tides change, motherfucker?
No, you're fucking wrong. No, you're fucking wrong. Stop it. Get out of my fucking head. 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 Get out of my fucking head.
I'm crawling back into my own mind. Parasitic to myself, I am my own demise. No disguise when I'm face to face with my own eyes. See the soggy tears I hide from the shed of light. Just give up the fight and recite a lullaby, cause suicide is just the beginning of goodbye. The key to life is really what you see inside, and tonight I break that veil and cross the line. I'm so explosive and hopeless, can't cope with shit. A poster kid of depression, suicidal idiot. Fucking anger fits made up by imagination. I'm going crazy, losing it. I'm drowning in this booze again. I'm blowing up your phone again. Just fucking answer it before I open up this rest and fucking bleed again. Punching holes in walls, bloody fist, devastation. I finally destroyed all of what God made me.
Spirit trapped in this flesh. See no escape except to die. No more can I accept the so I will just say lost souls don't go anywhere but between this world and the next, though I tend to lean towards moving on, but negative emotions have me anchored to the grave. So I just sit here posting like an afterthought, follow my people around, can't interact, better off in the ground. Get to see who really down and who fake, who let me down, wish I can fix all mistakes. Regret builds my prison, I try to escape. Chains of purgatory pull me back, is this my fate? All the hate molds me to malevolent wraith, wishing harm on those I love, wanting all of them to taste my own hell, not cause they did me ill. The solitude drives me mad while I just sit still. The world moves on, how am I supposed to feel? Ghostly apparition in the corner only wants to kill. Spirit trapped in this flesh, I see no escape except to die. No more can I accept the lie, so I will just say goodbye. Ghost of the minute. Brutal business entertainment. We coming after everybody. Body's about to fall, y'all. Get it? Is this war? Is it more? Break down the door. Bring out your corpse. Not keeping score. Got it locked. Figure 4. Hit record. Bring the torches with the horde. Kill them all. This ain't a war. It's a massacre. This ain't a war. It's a massacre. This ain't a war. It's a massacre. Fuck the world. We'll take on every single challenger. What even is this? Ain't bullshit for 100 songs. I'm all about some shit you never done. Go suck a dong. Fucking cons not ready when I bring the wrath like a fucking con. Hellfire my fucking spine. Hold mics with bloody bombs. Come along, I'll show you death cause you overstep. I'm on with tap, bury you alive, bitch. Don't hold your breath. Take that fake chain, asphyxiating till I broke your neck. Raising more hell than Motorhead. Hunt y'all like Boba Fett. Fuck these underground rappers too, just little nerds. Clowns on SoundCloud, shout bow down. Time to thin the herd. Make the rap game my prisoner, my rhythm sinister. I'm Jack the Ripper with literature. Kill them when I get the urge. Been disturbed, I don't give a single fuck about your opinion. Most of these fucking rappers' vocabulary's infant. They catalogs infringement, mine's is just malignant. You don't wanna go to war with me or my contingent. Is this war? Is it more? Break down the door. Bring out your corpse. Not keeping score, got it locked. Figure 4, hit record. Bring the torches with the horde. Kill them all. This ain't a war, it's a massacre. This ain't a war, it's a massacre. This ain't a war, it's a massacre. Fuck the world, we'll take on every single challenger. This world has been corroded and filled with rodents. Motherfuckers think you owe them and looking for a bonus. Without me, you promoters would have crashed like a Bowen. Saints forward, lead them then like Moses. Bring in bad omens. I'm done with acting civil, bite the hand, get crippled. Opportunists all around, even fucking fans are fickle. Only there with you on top, treat us as sacrificial. Past the pistol, now I'm the devil dancing in the middle. Start with ignoramus and send them down where Hades lives. Not a fucking thought in their brain, they all just plagiarists. I'm dangerous, aimless, miscellaneous, don't play favorites. Don't give a fuck with you, a pagan, atheist, or Satanist. Better watch what you're doing inside my backyard. Don't let us catch you moving heroin powder to black tar. Turn you to track stars, repercussions faster than NASCAR. Brutal business logo on your corpse, your villain still at large. Is this war? Is it more? Break down the door. Bring out your corpse. Not keeping score, got it locked. Figure 4, hit record. Bring the torches with the horde. Kill them all. This ain't a war, it's a massacre. This ain't a war, it's a massacre. This ain't a war, it's a massacre. Fuck the world, we'll take on every single challenger. B1B don't play warrior on the keyboard. We'll strap your whole fucking family to some C4. Your hunchback, live your mama's basement. Your ego motherfucker put you on a detour right to the seafloor. Always brutal, ain't no time for the crop babies. Most millennials like ladies while I'm spitting rabies. They hear some shit they don't like and run to find safety. I know that God hates me, I'm Satan's Tom Brady. Get on your Twitter and blog, go eat your Tide Pods. One violence don't need a call, so fuck a dialogue. One body's outlined in chalk all on the sidewalk. Can't get a church or a mosque, I wonder why not. If I offended you, I humbly don't give a fuck. Middle finger permanently, yo bitch don't interrupt. Feel like Thanos, I'd much rather turn them to dust. Could go on forever like Scissor Fist, cause this is us. Is this war? Is it more? Break down the door. Bring out your corpse. Not keeping score, got it locked. Figure 4, hit record. Bring the torches with the horde. Kill them all. This ain't a war, it's a massacre. This ain't a war, it's a massacre. This ain't a war, it's a massacre. Fuck the world, we'll take on every single challenger. you blaspheme the king, you will be laid to death. Yeah, wanna be king, thrown in the power he is old. Father was killed by my brothers, and so the story goes. He's just a child, not a bit of cruelty in his soul. But over time, decisions he's made him gold. Now you dare not stand in his path. His younger brother already fell victim to his wrath. Any opposition to the throne get deleted. The random 50 people dead in the street if he hit it, yeah. Already went and conquered the kingdom to the east. Now his sights are on the west. This king is a beast. If you value your life, my suggestion to run. If he gets you, don't know what will be done. He calls himself a merciful one, but it really not. He gets you in his grips, he squeezes you until you're blind. You can see it in his eyes, he can hide the evil. All the people that have died is a legend that he leaves you. Speak on the king, peasant has the audacity. Worship another lord, that is blasphemy.
Bring him forth.
He announces very casually,
Now face the king.
it'll be the very last you see. So goes the story of a king. The lands he would conquer and the wars he would bring. History is written by the victors nonetheless. So you blaspheme the king, you won't be laid to death. Yeah. And so goes the story of a king. The lands he would conquer and the wars he would bring. History is written by the victors nonetheless. So you blaspheme the king, you will be laid to death.
Y'all just heard my brother Trouble, that's the king of the West. Now it's Emperor Ickham, the practitioner of death. Rape and pillage your lands, plunder each and every chest till they're all swept. You're witnessing God in the flesh. Better bow down, show respect, and take the pledge. Before I pull out the guillotine, screaming off with their heads. Suddenly your life stop, pop, cardiac arrest. Fade to black, turn to dust. Close your eyes, take a rest. I'm a psycho, teeter-tottering right on the edge. If the anger strikes, I'm plunging deep down towards the depths where my mind go. I don't know, I think I'm losing grips. If you think that I'm crazy now, then you haven't seen nothing yet. As a younger me, I was so nice, I tried to help folks. Then I grew older, got colder, and my heart closed. Would I help any of y'all now? Hell no. Y'all got a better chance, well, if hell froze. Fell froze, what you plagued with your town knows. You are not a rapper, yo, an actor, here's your clown nose. Telling tales and some honorous hymns. All the story and the glory of the ominous king. It's Echo.
Yeah, yo, dressed in all black in the dark, camouflaged by the night. All the lights in the house are off now, and I'm grabbing onto my knife. The back door is unlocked, my mask is on, I'm inside. My freezer needs to be stocked, I'm stabbing all who's inside. So I move in, scan all the rooms. She's all alone, like I assume she's dying soon, but not too quick. I'ma take my time, I'm in a violent mood. Raid the kitchen, fuck buying food. Don't need the meat, she'll supply it soon. I'm on a diet, it's skinny bitches. I'm eating healthier, I'm trying to. She never stood a chance, she never stood up. After I severed vertebrae, red was squirting, her death was certain. Obsessed with murdering every person, don't ever trust me. I bet I'm worse than the best immersion. Expert working in the field of bringing death to persons, but I murk 'em.
Watch me put on a clinic, I did it for all who dig it. Nothing but raw, explicit, a visually scarring image. What makes you want to live in that body? You're non-existent. Let me put this knife in your skin and take you to a level we all will visit.
With a massive sword of sorts. Seen her at the back of the corridor, wishing that she had some boarded doors. But of course, it was too late, and I already chose her fate. Closed that gate, seen that fear all up on her face, until her brain sprayed from a flawless blade. Sick-minded, demented, that I mentioned, bipolar, prone to get vengeance. Feeling happy deep down when I hit a chainsaw, start with a rev like Bren. And I really wanna end it, but I've been caught up putting little kids in detention. It's so easy to me, like a sixth sense in the river, bodies get tossed like a pigskin. She was deep asleep when I went into a room and got beneath the sheets. I just spooned her, I just laid next to her in the bed, shaking while I beat my meat. I'm just lonely, I just want somebody to hold me while I'm rubbing it and meet the ski. It's okay, babe, I don't really wanna hurt you, I wanna coerce you to be with me. She wasn't into it, I guess, cause she tried to run up out of the room, but I'm quicker than a bitch. She got thrown back quick like a Michelin S, took the knife and I stuck it to her chest. Didn't really wanna take it here, babe, but it seems like we can never make this right. So I plunged it in and it pulled it out, the blood sprayed while I trained her fight.
Looks like you got nowhere to chase a pain, trigger by the brain, cry, you know you've been holding out.
That triggered in the face, but the fetish much better when I get a little taste. I peeled off in the raw, in the all fashion. Never try screaming, that shit ain't lasting. Inside my brain is a slaughterhouse. You never even know till the organs out. As I fiddle with the liver, I'ma watch you shiver like my lips to the sight of you all strung out. Slick cocaine, but contain my thoughts from the pencil. Better keep it broad unlocked. What I'm into is far from the mental. Never on the guts of these high strung sluts. Ain't no double these hoes, don't you know that? Snapping the body up on an old school Kodak. Guess I get the highlight deep in the snuff. Bust on my neck, the side of their blood spill. Wish you gave me that chance, but now I'm too hostile. Too far gone, bending your corpse to the spine goes a sign, yo. Swear I don't even know where my mind goes. When half the time, what is in my mind is best seen when your eyes close.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Uncovering the Underground Radio Podcast Show. As always, I am your host, Skippy Ickham of Brutal Business Entertainment, and we want to thank you for listening tonight. If you are listening live or streaming after the fact, as I always say, hit the share button, share it around to your platforms and social media sites, share it around to your family and friends, because the more people that see and check out the show, the higher we move in the rankings, the more it helps the show, the bigger and better things we can continue to do with the show. If you are listening, just know that we are on many other platforms. We are airing through Spreaker Podcast Radio Systems as our host company, and then from there we are on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Castbox, Deezer, you name it, we're on it. So make sure you check us out. Hit the share button, hit the follow button, and the like button. We would really appreciate it. We do want to thank our sponsors, Tattooed Scumbag Apparel. They are a sponsor not only of me and my music, but also my company and radio show, so we want to give them a huge shout out. If you are someone who loves great apparel, loves supporting local companies, and you're a tattooed scumbag like me, you'd love it. Check them out at tattooedscumbag.com. Again, that's tattooedscumbag.com. Hoodies, sweatpants, socks, beanies, hats, shirts, you name it, they have it. It fits good. It feels good. I wear it all the time at home and on stage, so make sure you check them out. Put in promo code BBE10. Again, that is BBE10 for 10% off of your overall order. We also want to thank Roush Designs, Legion Artworks, 5 Milligram Artworks, and R3 Graphics, who's my man who makes the shows for the flyer, or the flyers for the show. Excuse me, I said that backwards. And, we want to thank them for everything that they do for Brutal Business and for our show. And thank you to the listeners out there checking us out tonight. If it's your first time, welcome. This show airs every single Thursday night from 8 to 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 8 to 9 is uninterrupted underground music, and then from 9 to 10:30 each week, we interview an upcoming artist of all kinds of different backgrounds and natures, whether it be a rapper or a band, a model, porn star, an author, an actor, it doesn't matter. We have them on the show. We meet good people. We get to talk to them, find out who they are behind the scene. And tonight we have a hip-hop artist by the name of Mike Cleopatra on the line. His new mixtape dropped last night, and we're going to be talking a little bit about that and about some of his background and who he is behind the scenes. So make sure you check out all of the shows, hit the share button, and make sure you tune in tonight. Tell a friend, and we'd really appreciate it. So let's go ahead and jump into a little bit of who our guest is tonight. We got Mike Cleopatra on the line, and he is a poet in motion from the Adirondack Mountains. Initially began writing poetry at the age of 9. He was deeper introduced to hip-hop with weekend rap battles when he was a teenager, which he has since crafted into a potent form of hip-hop with lyrics that hit you in ways you don't expect. And I'd have to agree with that. Once you hear his music tonight, folks, it's not what you'd expect. And either, as he said it himself, you're either going to like it or you're not going to like it. I've become a big fan. So he uses song styles that arrange upbeat jazz the whole way to horrorcore. You never quite know what to expect with it, when the album begins playing. And equally as intense as he is charming, Mike is here to tell stories that views as important as he continues his adventure through this crazy game of life. He has previously dropped 2 albums, one in the summer of 2013 titled Wrong Turn, and then the sequel titled A Matter of Perspective in fall of 2017. Just released yesterday, on the 11th of September, is his newest mixtape, There Is Nothing to Fear. It is a loving tale of growth and acceptance as narrated by a character that is just as curious as he is understanding. It's available for free download on DapTip and as well as his Bandcamp, and that is Mike Cleopatra, MikeCleopatra.bandcamp.com, and the entire thing is up for streaming on YouTube as well. When he's not working on music, he can be found telling stories through other mediums. He's an aspiring fiction horror writer with 3 novellas nearing completion: Black Waters, Change the Channel, and A Look at Madness, a collective of short stories. He is also an aspiring genre filmmaker with 1 script nearing completion, and he is also a writer and editor for the Gruesome Gazette. Mike Cleopatra will be a name you will want to become familiar with, and I agree with that 100%. He does a lot of different things. He's very good at a lot of different things. And we're very excited to have him on the show tonight to get to find out who he is. How you doing tonight, homie?
I'm good. How are you doing, Skippy?
Oh, not too bad, brother. Just, finishing out my evening and getting a chance to kick it with you, pick your brain a little bit, and I'm glad you could be on the show.
Nah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I think we should just jump right into it. You obviously released a new mixtape last night. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that mixtape and what to expect with it?
So last night I dropped, it's called There's Nothing to Fear, and it's essentially a tale of just, pretty much it covers a lot of ground. It's a lot of questions that I've had myself. Like, for example, there's a song on there called The Philosophy of Time Travel, and that song is legitimately about the question of, if you could go back in time and fix something, would you? Or if you're stuck in a phase of your life you don't like and you'd want to go forwards. And I say straight up in the chorus, like, if I had either of those chances, I wouldn't do it, because as far as I'm concerned, life happens the way it's supposed to. And all the experiences you've gone through, whether they're what you would consider horrible or great, they shape you to the person you are. And whatever you're going through, even if it's something you can't stand, I believe that there's supposed to be some sort of beauty in your suffering. So I feel like where you are is where you're supposed to be. And so that's just one of the 16 tracks that are on the album. So there's a lot of movie clips that I play throughout it. That's why I wanted to make it a free mixtape. I really just wanted people to check it out, because I want to try and touch people. It's an album that I personally wish I had heard growing up, because it would have changed my attitude with a lot of things when I went through like a dark phase, so to speak. So as far as I'm concerned, it's really just, there's a little bit of something for everyone. Even if you just check out 1 or 2 songs on it, I'm hoping that there's something to make you at least smile, or, just try and pull back the veil on some of the great questions that people seem to have with life. Because I know, like, the whole last 3 years of my life have been a lot of philosophical inquiries and just trying to understand how things work. And, naturally it's life. You can't really understand how it is, but you can try and make some guesses and you can always adjust. And I think that is just a ever-growing change of growth. So this is just me trying to verbalize the last year to 2 years of my life and just try and make them into a form it's a good mode of storytelling. It's a good time killer. It's a solid hour long. So if you just put it on and you're going for a ride, I hope that it's a good companion piece kind of thing. So that was what the approach was with that. And then the title, There's Nothing to Fear, it's literally just, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a quick second, but essentially okay. It's just me trying to push the idea that there's really nothing to worry about, because the greatest fear that people seem to have is just about death and life itself. And once you learn to accept that death is really just the next phase and it's not something to worry about, there's really nothing holding you back in life. And I thought that was beautiful when I heard that. So I was like, I want to make this like the centerpiece of this.
And you did a really good job. That's one thing I can definitely say for the project is, I didn't unfortunately get to hear the entire thing. I heard about a half of it. I listened to it on my way to work the other day, and I was very impressed. And the reason I didn't get the whole way through, because I do have about an hour drive. Some of the songs I listened to twice. The first half, I kind of double-dipped each song and really listened to it, which I like to do with albums. So haven't got to check out the second half of it, but for the first half that I've heard, very good. You have some very good concepts. Lyrical ability is very good. I really liked what I heard. I think people are going to like it as well. It's different, as you mentioned, and I said earlier. It's either going to be something you listen to and you're like, hey, it's not for me, or you're going to listen to it and you're going to say, oh, wow, okay, that's different. I like that.
Exactly. And either way, that's what I appreciate, because it's not for everybody, as you said, but the people that do pick up on it, I hope that it's something that it grabs onto them kind of thing. So it's, it's a little bit of everything, and I just hope that the people that do find it, they find something about it that they find remarkable.
Absolutely, and you can't hope to have everybody. If your dream's to have everyone like you, then you're kind of following false hopes there. You know, you got to kind of be more realistic with it. There's going to be a big majority of the crowd that listens to you and just says, that's not for me. And I can say that for myself. I mean, I definitely have probably a great deal of people out there that would listen to my music and say, that's definitely not my thing. And that's okay, you know what I mean? But there's a big crowd that does. So you got to kind of fight your battles and get those niche fans. And I think with this project, you'll certainly do that. Your past work is good. This work is certainly very good. And I am looking forward to playing a little bit of that tonight on the show here shortly. Why don't you tell us, you know, how long have you been working on this project?
So this one I've been working on since probably the winter of like 2015 into 2016. I originally tried to drop the same album last summer, but it was something that I was trying to produce myself. And I went to my friend's house out in the middle of the woods and locked myself in for 2 days and just straight up recorded it and tried to do it. But in the process of me trying to mix everything, my laptop that I had everything on legitimately just crapped out and died completely. So all I had to go off of was these MP3s that I had managed to save. So I tried to put it out, and I was not happy with it because you could tell that it like the volumes weren't correct. Some of the songs were just not fully mature enough, and it's just, you know, it's just when you put something out there and it's your work, it's your baby, you want it to be a good representation of what you're trying to do. So I just straight up took it down. So if you go on my Bandcamp, you'll see that this is technically a deluxe reissue. About 8 or 9 of the songs are from the first draft that I have had time to become more confident with and take out the little kinks that I didn't like. And then I straight up wrote another 7 or 8 pieces that I felt were very important to the story. And as I was writing it, I was just getting very excited about it. And I was like, this is definitely how it was supposed to be. So it's kind of been a little bit of something that once was, and it's turned into what now is.
I like that, though. It was a project that was meant to happen, that didn't happen. You restructured, you rebuilt, and now you presented it again, and it's solid. So I like to hear how that came about. And that's something I always like to talk to different musicians about, whether it be a band, whether it be a hip-hop artist, is, you know, the writing process and how that works. How is your writing process? When you typically write, how do you do it? Are you a pad and pen guy? Are you a, you know, text on your phone type guy? Or you just do it in your head? How's your writing process?
I thoroughly believe in the whole pad and pen style just because I grew up writing when I'm, you know, a teenager going on long car trips with my parents. I would just write these little wacky songs that were ultimately just garbage. But, you know, it's just me at 10 years old, like just trying to think about some stuff that I thought was kind of cool. At 10 years old, there's not much to talk about. So, you know, I've been going through that process for a while. But recently, like for this album in particular, it was a combination of me sitting down with an instrumental I found, and I was just like really feeling it. And I would just come up with like a chorus on the spot and just try and like fill in the blanks for the rest of it. But then there's a solid half of the songs where I was mostly walking around at work, and it was either like there's things going on or it was a slow day and I had time in my own head kind of thing, because I work 12-hour night shifts. So I have a long period of time where I'm kind of just stuck in my own head, which for most people that can be a prison. And I've learned how to not let that be the case. So I would just take, like, even if it's just over the course of one night, like I would just hear a random word that I just never heard before, or I would think of a random phrase, and I would just write that down in my phone and save that for later, kind of like a big booklet as you would. Okay. And then when I'm going to write a song, I would just pick up this word and be like, oh, that kind of goes with this whole theme of this song. And then things just kind of fall into place, actually. It's kind of like doing either like a crossword puzzle or even just like one of those like those connect the dots kind of thing where it's like you go from like bar 1 to bar 2 and you end up making a shape of like a star kind of thing. My brain kind of works like that. So it was kind of like a scattered all over the place. There's only 2 songs where I sat down and just wrote it in one sitting. The whole rest of it, it was one thing, and again, it would turn into something else. And eventually I was very happy with the final forms they all took.
Well, good. And that's what you got to do, is you got to kind of, you know, craft it, and you got to come back and make changes. I know that's what I do with mine, is I don't usually sit down and write the whole song in one time. I make pieces to it. Sometimes I'm going to start to make pieces for something else, and while I'm writing that, I'm like, you know what, that actually fits better with that other song. Exactly. And I kind of craft it in, and you got to take little fragments of all of your work and all the different things you're putting together and kind of mold it the right way and craft what you make out of it, because it doesn't always follow a specific plan.
Exactly. You know, I truly believe that music is a living entity, and it kind of has its own will. So even if you have an idea of like, this is how I want it to be, I don't believe in one sitting you're getting the final draft. It could be a really solid idea, and there could be a lot that you could work with that. But I don't really believe that if you sit down and just write one piece, you're good to go. I can do verses like that, for example, but if I'm doing like a 2 or 3 verse song and that's my whole structure, there's only, I think, 2 songs between my last 2 albums where I was like, yeah, this is fine to go right out the gate. Everything else has been a ongoing growing process, just like, we do as people.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, you got to stay polished. You have to constantly sharpen the blade, so to speak, because that's exactly what it is. You write the song, you make it, it sounds good, but then you got to craft it. You got to slowly sharpen the blade. Each time you do it, you're sharpening it one more slide. And eventually you make yourself razor sharp, and you got to stay that way. If you want to be on top, you have to constantly sharpen that blade.
Yeah.
And it's great to see that is what you're going for, that's what you're pushing for. Do you have any idea? Were you putting it so right now it's on DapTiff and it's on YouTube and was it Bandcamp?
Yeah, so right now it's on Bandcamp, and I have the entire thing streaming on YouTube, minus I have an interlude and an outro that are just straight up movie clips. I didn't put them on, obviously, for copyright kind of issues, but I felt they were important to the story, even if it's just, kind of just like those little whimsical things, because I do a lot of movie watching, and I would always go back to movies that even I grew up with as a kid, and I'd find like a nugget of something like that's, like the heart of the story. And I felt that if I put them in my CD in correct spots, it would add the context of what I'm trying to get at. So I have the whole thing on Bandcamp. It's up for free download. You do have the option to pay if you wish, but I really am not concerned with that. Like I said, I wanted to try and help people. So I just wanted this to just go out to people. So it's on Bandcamp for free. I am putting it on DatPiff over this weekend. It's not up there just yet, but I am aiming to do that, and I'm going to try and make it a sponsored post. That way that's available for free as well. And yes, the whole thing is, again, on YouTube, minus the interlude and the outro.
Okay, absolutely. Well, you heard it, folks. Check it out. Download it. It is free, but hey, if you want to throw a couple bucks his way, he's not going to, certainly argue. It helps an artist out. So if you enjoy the project, definitely throw him a couple bucks and, help him continue to make music, continue to do what he does. Check that out today. It is available as of last night, so go listen to it after the show tonight. Obviously, stick with us for the time being. You want to find out a little bit more about the man behind the scenes, and then you can go check his music out. So as of right now, you have any shows or anything coming up that we should know about?
As of right now, I don't. I have been talking to a couple promoters out of Albany to try and do maybe one before Christmas time is over with, but as of this point in time, I have nothing set.
Now, how's the scene up your way?
The scene there's a lot of rap artists where I'm from. I'm from the 518, and honestly, there's too many rappers for me to even name. There's a group that I do hang out with a lot, which is the It That Betrays gang. I know that they were on your show a few weeks ago.
I remember they had them on, but about 2 months ago, actually. Yeah, so they were a good interview, good guys.
They're like the one consistent group that I hang out with because they're very good, friendly people. They know how to run a show, and they've always treated me right. So I like hanging out with those guys. There's a few other promoters that I've worked with in the past. There's one that goes by the name of Joe Chaos. He hits me up from time to time, and I try to do his shows. He does try to fit a lot of artists onto one show. So I try to not make them a common thing just because I don't want to tire out my fans that do come out to my shows. So the scene itself there's a lot of everything. You have a lot of your party rappers, you have a lot of your storytelling, you have a lot of your horrorcore. There's really quite a culmination up here. So it's kind of hard to stand out. So I'm just trying to do my thing, and I just try and hope that by being myself that, that's what stands out to people. And I try to just be genuine.
That's what's up. That's what you got to do, and I hope to someday come up your way. I've played a lot of different places, but I have yet to play in Albany, New York. So that's something we might have to set up at some point in time.
I would love to help you out with that, man.
Yeah, I'd love to get up there, man. It'd be a good time. Bring some of my artists up. I mean, we could make it a thing. Like you said, if It That Betrays throws their own shows up that way, I could link up with them and you guys, and maybe we could put something together. I got a lot of artists on deck that I could certainly bring to throw a good show.
I think that'd be a great time.
Absolutely. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. So why don't you tell us, you said you are a big movie buff. But I also remember in the bio reading that you are working on a short film yourself. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that side venture?
So, the whole movie thing has like kind of blown up over the last year. So, like I've always liked movies, especially horror films, and there wasn't really a particular reason. I just enjoyed them. But like over last year, I started really honing in on like the message and the nugget of the stories. And for me, I felt that they were very important. Like whether it be about transforming like coming of age tales or even just something simply like again, just trying to emphasize the idea of like there's nothing to fear. Because that's what horror really is you coming face to face with them and trying to find a way to overcome them. So I'm just my girlfriend will attest to this, but I usually take my paycheck and blow about a third of it on just used DVD stores. Um, my collection's kind of obnoxious. I try to find like your out of date, hard to find stuff. Like I've got Suspiria on DVD and stuff like that. I just this week alone on eBay, I was picking up like Eraserhead and Dead Alive. So I try to get a little bit of your more obscure stuff, but I do like the traditionals. Like I just watched Tom Savini's version of Night of the Living Dead last night. Wasn't the biggest fan on that, but I can appreciate it. But I try and take notes on like everything from the actual story writing part of it to how the camera is focused, how the lighting is. I went to school for a few years for like digital photography and like multimedia, so I have a small background in all of that. So I'm trying to emphasize my story part right now. So once I have a solid script that I'm very confident with, I'm going to attempt to make a short film. And I've got a couple ideas brewing, but I'm not entirely certain which one I feel is going to be the most effective and the easiest to do on such a small budget. So that one's still up in the air, but I'm definitely trying to pen out a few different drafts.
That's it too, as you named it, is it's not even just the battle of getting, the script written and get it all polished. It's the funding behind it to be able to have the budget to do it, because even a short film of only several minutes or 15 minutes, 20, 25 minutes, anything that you start building up on that, the more you do, the more it costs, and it's not cheap. And I actually was in the process of writing a script for a short film myself. Hadn't got around to finish it because some other things came up within the company, but eventually I hope to finish that out myself. But we're looking to do a short script on something I was writing, or a short film on something I was writing a little while back. But I kind of sidelined that because as I started looking into it and I seen how much, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to get back to it, but I have to sideline for a few other things at the current time because I think it would slow me down a little bit, whereas I can take that here coming on soon when I have a little bit more free time, like wintertime, and maybe try to polish that off. So I wish you nothing but luck on the short films and on the script writing. It's a great thing. That's what I love, is I love not only just writing music, but being a part of writing.
Yeah, because I feel like it's all just different versions of the same medium, like no matter how it comes out, whether it's with music or if it's just an actual like book you write, or like it really comes out no matter what. Even if you're just like taking a picture of something, like the style in which you take that photograph can tell a whole story. So I find art to just be such a fascinating creature, and I just want to try and contribute. And that's why I don't just try to confine myself to just hip hop. Like, like I'm trying to do the story writing. I'm trying to make a movie. I do vocals in a metal band. Like I'm trying to cover a whole lot of ground just so that way I can just do my contribution, just do the things I'm feeling at that point in time. And I also feel that by having multiple outlets, it doesn't convolute the one I'm trying to do. Like if, for example, I wasn't writing horror fiction, I feel my music would be a little more darker. And that's not necessarily what I want to be represented by. Whereas like, because I feel like in horror, I mean, like, as you know, most like horror directors are actually really sweet people, but they write these very morbid tales. So it's kind of like, I feel that by having these extra outlets, I can have a better representation and understand myself even better than if I just try and do one piece a year and just be like, this is it. This is me.
That makes sense. I mean, it's really hard. Like I think about that sometimes where I do a lot of different things. I'm involved in a lot of different stuff. And I always thought, if I didn't do all this other stuff and I just did rap, or I just did this, I don't know how long I could do it before I would kind of snap, because I would get, I hate to say it, but I would almost get bored with it. And my mind wanders off a lot, and it's in a lot of different places, and it's a lot of thoughts going on inside there. So I need to keep it busy by giving it a lot of stuff to do. And I feel like I would just get bored with it too quick. So kudos to the people who are just diehard into one craft and they don't do anything else, but also kudos to the ones out there that are doing multiple things and are multi-talented.
Absolutely. Props to anybody that's just trying to contribute anything. Even if you're just like a painter or anything like that, like it's, thank you for what you're doing, because we as humans, like I feel that art is the most entertaining thing of what we do. Because like the mundane, like 9 to 5, like that's whatever. That's what keeps the society flowing. That's debatable, but that's whatever. But as far as art goes, art is really just you expressing what you can't. Even if you find a way to do it with words, visually, it's whatever you do. Even if you just make a simple beat, like something like that, it's, thank you for your contribution, because that's what we as a species need to keep trying to push for, I believe.
Absolutely, I agree. I mean, it's a good point to go after, and you're expressing that, and I think people will pick that up. Now, so one of the things I was going to ask is, you mentioned just a second ago about, like, even if you're making beats, what, as far as production on your work, is it something you making the beats? Is it something that you are buying beats from someone else? I know everybody works a little bit differently. I've never been a producer. I've never been one that could make beats. But I have a lot of artist friends that I talk to. They're like, oh, I do everything. I make the beats. I record it. I also go to a studio. So I simply write my music. I don't record my own stuff, and I don't make the production to it.
So as far as production goes, I have a couple different ways I do it. So starting from the bottom with the beats, for There's Nothing to Fear, I did just find stuff like on YouTube, and like I knew people that like I've worked with on the past projects, and I checked out their recent stuff. And I did purchase everything. Most of it was free. But that's why I wanted it to be a mixtape, is because at the same time, I wanted to also promote them as producers. For the upcoming projects, like ones that I would actually try and like require money for, that's something I would work with an actual like in-house producer. Like my roommate, he goes by the producing credit Cleansing. He has done a couple things. Like he mostly writes like metal, so he doesn't have a lot of like hip hop under his belt. But I want to work with him because it would have that other element to it that makes it not sound like your traditional like 808, like playing over a loop kind of thing. Because I feel that even though it's a backing track, it should have a structure to it. So I'm not the biggest fan on like your popular producers kind of thing, but there are a couple people like around here that are really good, like The Evilest Beast. I know he does a lot for like It That Betrays. I plan to work with him soon. I got a friend named Borden. He's been producing some good beats. So I try to work with people that I personally know, just because I want to help with them. As far as the physical like recordings and stuff, I did go to school for 4 years, and I got a degree in music and audio engineering. But I have a friend named Tim Lynch from the recording company. He works with a lot of like pop punk and like easier kind of metal bands like that. So he has a bigger expanse too. And I wanted to work with him because his product is always very clear. He is very professional, and I can go in there and just pay for 2 hours worth of work and bust out 5 songs because he's very whatever I want him to do. And since he has a bigger background with more than just hip hop, he doesn't confine me to one sound. He can make me do whatever I want to do. So he helps me paint a better canvas, if you will.
Why don't we take a break right now and let us listen to that canvas? We got a first break here for you folks. This is Nouns and Verbs, and this is off of Mike Cleopatra's brand new mixtape. Check it out. We'll be right back on Uncovering the Underground in just a couple minutes.
Hello. I'm Mike Cleopatra and I need no introduction. I was gonna write one but it ran over my budget, so fuck it, directors cut it while we on the subject, cause there is no judgment in this friendly discussion. I'm here to tell some stories, possibly inspire hope, make some people laugh, convince you to untie the rope, try to show the light, but before there's fire there is smoke, and now I'm taking the higher road to bring back what I'm fighting for. I can see the world in a plane of existence, where we face fear with optimism and persistence. No more growing distance over conflict of interest. Together we are in this is all of our business. And I was always told that we reap what we sow, so my goals are lined up, count them 3 in a row. Proper conditions are needed just so the seeds can grow, so come and see the show. You can learn even even more. We are all humans, constantly in movement, trying to make improvements in a world of confusion. So you can follow what I'm doing in this music and use it. This is my earthly contribution. We are individuals, living in the physical, making difficult decisions that are also critical. Stop being cynical, all of this is literal. Let's overcome the miserable and step into the pinnacle.
Life is a test, we all are trying our best, and it's easy to want to lose it all. You cannot quit, you know you're bigger than this. Just the fact you exist is beautiful.
Don't get discouraged if you don't know your purpose. Fuck what you've heard, that doesn't render you worthless. You need to reignite that internal resurgence. Ignore the bad urges and stop being so nervous. It does no good to hide your face in your shirt. In my experience, that's only making it worse. We are all stuck trying to find our place on this earth. We are atoms, star molecules, and grains of the dirt. And what honestly bothers me is the hypocrisy. We segregate each other from this global economy. I'm establishing an odyssey with an open door policy where we are constantly progressing. If you would just follow me, I encourage you all just to try to commit, cause the time is nigh. Don't cry and submit, cause the way I see it, you can climb the summit, or let go and plummet and fucking die from it. We are all humans, constantly in movement, trying to make improvements in a world of confusion. So you can follow what I'm doing in this music and use it. This is my earthly contribution. We are individuals, living in the physical, making difficult decisions that are also critical. Stop being cynical, all of this is literal. Let's overcome the miserable and step into the pinnacle.
Every day we all got choices to make. They're the same ones we face when all alone. Listen, my dear, for there is nothing to fear. Just keep walking down that lonely road.
I am just a conduit for the powers that be. Call it what you want, but that sounds right to me. All I know is that these words are higher than me. This verbal commitment is a promise that I'll keep. No longer living with resentment, no longer stuck second guessing. If I said it once, then I meant it. These are my mantras manifested. No longer letting it slide. This time we're doing it right. No need to be proving your pride. That's why you're losing your mind. You gotta go with the tide. Stop running away from the light. So tell me why you would hide when there's a whole world outside. We all learn our lessons from our repetition, trying to escape from this mental prison. So listen to each other and respect their wishes. Life in itself is a privilege that we all have been given. We are all humans, constantly in movement, trying to make improvements in a world of confusion. So you can follow what I'm doing in this music and use it. This is my earthly contribution. We are individuals, living in the physical, making difficult decisions that are also critical. Stop being cynical, all of this is literal. Let's overcome the miserable and step into the pinnacle.
Life is a test, we all are trying our best, and it's easy to want to lose it all. You cannot quit, you know you're bigger than this. Just the fact you exist is beautiful.
And we're back on Uncovering the Underground Radio podcast show. I am your host, Skippy Ickham of Brutal Business Entertainment, and that was Nouns and Verbs from Mike Cleopatra, who is our guest on the show tonight. His brand new mixtape dropped last night, and that is the intro track off of that mixtape. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that song?
So that song, I call it Nouns and Verbs, aka Things and Stuff. And I felt it was a good intro just because it kind of covers a lot of basic grounds, like because the whole chorus is like trying to be comforting, and it's all about just how there's nothing to fear, like we're all just trying to do our thing. We're all just people doing things until we eventually are done doing those things. So it's a very general thing. I have my friend Lindsay Ray singing the chorus. She's the vocalist of a metal band from Colorado called The Anchor. And I thought it would be cool to have her on it just because she mostly does like a Day to Remember style, like pop punk, like aggressive kind of vocals, and she does a lot of screaming. So I thought it'd be cool to pull her onto a jazz rap song and just kind of like cross genres like that. So she was really easy to work with. She was very professional, so I was very happy with that. But as far as the song itself, it's one of those songs that just every time I hear, like I personally get goosebumps. So if my own music can do that to me, like that's where I'm just like, all right, this is the product I want it to be. So I was very happy with that, and I felt it would be a very good intro because it's very different. Like, the next few songs go more into like your mainstream sounding hip hop, but it's one of those songs that just kind of tells you like you don't really know what you're in for. The whole CD is just kind of a roller coaster, and that's your, before you go up the hill, it's your kind of like brace yourself kind of tone.
Well, it does, and when I started listening to it, I was checking out the beginning part of it, and I'm like, okay, yeah, it sounds pretty dope, and then it kind of built up, and I'm like, yeah, this is catchy, it's different, I like it, and then the chorus or the hook came in with her on it, and I was like, oh wow, okay, I wasn't expecting that. And then I kept listening, and I'm like, all right, I'm digging it. And then how you let her go a couple times on her own, and then on the last one, you guys harmonized together.
Yeah, no, that was because she did the first two, and I had the third one pretty much on my own. So I was like, I wonder what it would be like if we harmonized it. And I was blown away by the product. It's one of those moments where like even my engineer like just smiled and like went red, and he was like, this is gold. So I was like, all right, I have an outside opinion.
Whenever I heard the third one came on, I thought I heard both of you at first. And I listened a little closer, and I'm like, is that the two of them harmonizing specifically on the third one? And I listened through, and I was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, he nailed it. And at the end of it, I'm like, that was a really good placement of a place to harmonize. So, no, that's why I really like the intro. And you know what? It's actually a pretty long intro for as far as intros go, and it kept me the whole time. So that's a good thing to know that you can have a song that's almost 6 minutes long as an intro, which is lengthy, and still hold the listener's attention throughout it, leading right into the second song and leading right into the other couple that really hit me. Like you said, they're a little bit more of your standard hip-hop, and I don't want to say standard in a negative light, but it's more of what you would expect. And then this first track just kind of takes you on a ride, and then you're like, well, where is this going to take me to? I don't know what the journey is going to be, and that's what you want to do to someone. You don't want them to know what the album's going to be like before they listen to it.
Exactly. Like it's, like I don't like trashing like other music, but like just for example, like Post Malone just dropped a new album and everyone's talking about that. I'm not a big fan, but I try to listen to it just so I could understand. But it's like, every song is the same song for like 18 tracks. And it's like, that song is good, but after like the fourth or fifth one, like I'm burnt out. I don't care anymore. Whereas this, when I put out my piece, I just figured it's so different that either even if you hate the first song, you skip to the next one, that one gets your attention. You don't like the first two, you go to the third, that one gets your attention. So I just try to have the variety because, that is the spice of life after all.
It is. I mean, you want to give people different flavors. You want to give them options because, okay, maybe they're not feeling the way you're doing this, but if you have more to offer than just that, you can still make a fan out of someone who might not have been. Whereas if you just have that sound, they're either going to like it or they don't. If they don't, there's no getting them back.
Exactly. And part of my magic trick with that too is I can play almost any kind of show setup and have a set for that. Like a few months ago, back in June, I played with like the Betrays guys, and it was a more like juggalo kind of set. So I played a lot more like my heavier stuff. But then when I did one or two of my softer songs in it, like those got their attention because they weren't expecting it. Whereas if I play a show with more mainstream rappers, I play my more, mainstream sounding songs instead of like the more horrorcore stuff. And it's like, it gives me the ability to be a, interdimensional creature kind of. thing. I don't just play one role. I can pretty much do whatever I need to do.
And that's good. And you know what's it's good to also keep in mind is one would think, okay, I'm playing with more hip hop mainstream, play more hip hop mainstream music. I'm playing with more horrorcore, play more horrorcore. Now it usually works, and that's good that you can do that. But then it's also good to be able to do the flip flop, where sometimes you play with those horrorcore guys, but you take a chance and you go out on a limb, and then you play more hip hop, more catchy type songs, and then vice versa. You're on a regular hip hop show and you come out and you do some dark, twisted rhymes. Sometimes, depending upon the crowd in the moment, that can actually steal the show, because if they're hearing 5-6 rappers that sound the same and all of a sudden you're completely left field, they're like, oh wow, who's this guy?
Exactly. And that's like, because like I play sometimes in Saratoga, which up here is like a big like tourist like area, so we get a lot of your random people in there. They sell a lot of alcohol. Like, it's a really busy scene when I play there. And I went on after like honestly like 8 people. Like, it was a long show. And everybody was, you know, like, no one was doing bad. Like, it's not like that, but they were all pretty much doing the same kind of thing. And then I come on stage and I start by rapping over the Creep Show theme song. And then I go into, you know, the philosophy of time travel. And by the time my second song got to the first chorus, everybody that was at the bar walked right up to check me out because I sounded so different. So I like to feel that plays into my, you know, my power that I have.
It's good. You have to stand out. I've always been one that, even though I do darker style music, which I never want to say I'm a horrorcore rapper, even though I am, but that's by far from what I am.
I know, because you don't want to ever like box yourself into a label like that.
You have a lot of people say like, "Oh, Skippy's a horrorcore artist," and I'm like, I'm not really a horrorcore artist, folks. I'm like, I'm more of like an underground hardcore rapper. I have elements of horror to it, but I don't really think I'm a horrorcore artist. But
exactly.
I am horrorcore. So it's weird to think of it that way, but. Yeah, you don't want to box yourself in. You don't want to limit yourself. You want to be open to different sounds, different stories, different journeys that you take your listener on. Like I said, that grows your fan base, allows you to get more of a reach and do more things.
Exactly.
Now, with the recent release of the mixtape, is there any plan for any upcoming other music that you're working on? Sometimes people are working on multiple projects at once. Sometimes people go project to project, like myself. Is there anything specific that you have coming up?
So right now I've been mostly focusing on my novellas and trying to focus on my screenplay. But I do have another EP that I have been starting with, and the seed has been planted. It's not really anywhere, but I told you earlier that I'm in a metal band, and I'm actually working with my guitarist to kind of do like a rap metal kind of thing. Kind of like old school Limp Bizkit, or like there's some newer artists like ones that come to mind are like Guillotines. Like there's a couple artists that are trying it, and it's actually kind of doing a resurgence. It's not something I'd want to make a career out of, but I think for like, you know, a 4 or 5 track EP, I think it would definitely, you know, shake some trees. So I'm working on that. And then I am trying to get some ideas ready for my next actual album, the one that I'm going to be like actually making the beats for and like outsourcing to local producers kind of thing. So I do have some like seeds planted, and I have the idea of where I'm going to go with it. But as of this point in time, they're still baby seeds.
There's nothing wrong with that. I take a lot of my projects one by one. I have plans for some of the other ones after this next one. But I have no like immediate things that I could release to the public because I don't have enough to give that. So my next album's coming out, but what lies after that is merely just thoughts in my head.
Exactly. And you don't know what's going to mature before the other thoughts. So I don't like to get too ahead of myself because like I could be, you know, the phrase like you put all your eggs in one basket. Like I don't like that idea because of what could happen if you drop that basket. So that's why, you know, like while I was waiting for my final mixes on this CD and getting like the dates ready, I was typing up my story. So I try to keep busy, and at the same time, when I come back to review the previous piece, while I'm working on the other one, it gives me a chance to kind of mature mentally and approach the same piece with a different attitude. So I feel that by me doing 2 or 3 projects at one time, it makes me more versatile.
That makes sense. That actually makes sense. I work on multiple songs at the same time, but I usually don't work on multiple projects. It just depends. I can't say that either. I mean, I put out my Syntax album with Lumi the Impaler a while back, a couple years ago, and during that I was writing that one would have been Giving Birth to Death, and I was working on both of them back and forth, but I would notice myself like sticking to one more. So like I would go 4 songs in a row on Syntax, and then I would like jump back over to the Skippy side for a little bit. I couldn't stick with just one. I was working on both of them, but I couldn't write song back and forth between the two. I'd have to like focus more on one. I have a side project going on right now that's going to be released coming up soon, or more details on it. And it's like I'm finishing up my album before I can jump into that. I've always been one that has to kind of like stick to it. I can't jump back and forth.
No, I feel you, because it's easy to get lost in the sauce, so to speak. Because you have all these thoughts and you're working on one project, and then you're trying to, especially if you try working with like other people with something, then they're talking about one thing, but you're mentally thinking about another. So it can be a little hard to keep up, and that's why I try to have 2 on the forefront and then a seed in the back of something that's just simply an idea. So this album's finally out. I'm going to work on my other 2 things, and then the next album's only a seed at this point. Whereas when this was coming out, this was the thing on my forefront. My novellas were right behind that. And then the movie script was the one that was just a seed at the time, which it's still blooming. So it's I like to keep busy, but I don't want to kill myself trying to be too busy either.
You can't, and I mean, you got to take it and give everything its due time to get to where it needs to be. If you rush it, nothing ever comes out the way it should have. Now, why don't you tell us a little bit about the novellas that you're working on? Why don't you give us a little bit of background? You don't have to give us too much because obviously you're still working on it, but why don't you give us somewhat of an insight on what it is that you've been working on?
So the very, very first time I wrote a story it was a short story, and I started reading at work on my lunch break. So, I got tired of browsing my phone, so I picked up Stephen King's short stories, and it was The Bazaar of Bad Dreams. And there was one story in there, I think it was called like Premium Harmonies, and it was literally just a story about like an old couple that goes to like a Walmart or something, and the lady like dies while she's in the store, and then the guy like goes inside and he's like, oh, she's dead. He comes outside and his dog is dead in the car. And like that was the whole story. And it's like I didn't really understand what the point was, if it was more than just trying to get like laughs out of the audience. But it was that moment where I sat there and I was like, I could do better than this. And so, naive me, I sat down and in one sitting I wrote a 2-page story about a kid that tries to take a poop at school, and he has, a fear of pooping in public. And then there's ironically a school shooter that day. So that was the very, very first short story, because I was just like, let's just do a story just for the hell of it. And so, like that one, like, that's whatever. That's just trash at this point. But that was the idea of, I can actually, if I want to, I could do this. So then I started doing a bunch of short stories. And that is essentially the first thing I was working on. And that's called A Look at Madness, a collection of short stories. And it has a lot of different things in it, like, one of them is called Straw for Blood, and it's essentially just, a stalking story about a scarecrow versus a drug dealer. I do have a story in there called She Waits, which is a psychological tale about a girl that gets a phone call, and then she's just simply waiting for this person to show up. So it has a lot of suspense. So that was the first one I worked on. I kind of put that on the back burner, though, because I was trying to do like 3 short stories a week. And it hit a point where it was just kind of just coming out all muddy and it was garbage. So I took a break from that and I was like, let me do one meaty piece. And that turned into my first real novella, which right now is called Black Waters. The title is still working, but it's essentially about a group of scientists that believe they have found where Atlantis is. And it's underneath the Antarctic crust about 5,000 meters down. So it's a story about them going there. And essentially, since it's, horror fiction, they run into some complications. So that is the first real piece that is ready to go kind of thing. I sent it to an editor a few months back, and I got the first draft back, so I'm doing a revision. So I'm hoping by Christmas that'll be done and like ready to go out for publishers and stuff like that. But then in the meantime, while I was waiting for those to come back, I started my next one, which is called Change the Channel. And that one is a little more all over the place. It's essentially about a guy who gets a sloppily written letter from an old friend, and it's like just complete garbage. It's like a bunch of sentences that don't really sound like they mean anything. So he goes out there, and it turns out that the kid has learned how to talk to entities from what they believe to be another dimension through the internet. And that's essentially how it's going to start. Where it goes from there, I'm still kind of debating myself.
Okay, no, it's interesting because you don't always know which way it's going to go. I'm actually, ironically enough, we kind of talked about some other things we had in common. One of them is, aside from the screenplay, I did dive heavy into starting to write my book Vicious Iniquities, and I stuck that aside as well. Those two things are kind of going to be one of my plans coming up here in the next year or so. But people keep saying, where's it going to go? What's going to happen? I'm like, well, I will tell you once I know. Because it's like I'm writing it. It's coming out. It's taking a form of its own, and it's taking a life of its own, but I don't always know which way it's going to take until it takes it.
Exactly. It's the same thing as like I'm not a big painter. My girlfriend mostly is, but like every now and then like I'll sit down and do one with her just so I can do it. And I've come to learn that the painting is there the whole time. You're kind of just uncovering it. You're not really putting anything there. And I've come to learn that writing these stories is the same thing. I'll go in with an idea, but even I don't know where the hell it's going to go. Sometimes I have to wait a month to get to the next chapter. But then the story just writes itself. It's almost weird. And if you read like any of like the how to write stories like On Writing by Stephen King and stuff like that, they tell you that the story writes itself, and that's why you just need to be organic and just try and give the characters as much life as you can, because then they literally take on their own sentience in this weird dimension that you're creating in your head.
They do. It does really write itself. I mean, there's times I would sit day after day, couldn't write anything, and then there's another day where I'd sit down and just start cranking out just, paragraph after paragraph. It's interesting how it takes on a life of its own. It knows when it needs to be written. It knows when it can't be. And that's very interesting. Now, you mentioned Stephen King a couple times. Are you a big Stephen King fan?
When I was growing up, I was. Like, Maximum Overdrive is one of my favorite movies, even though everybody will trash that movie to death. I'm not entirely certain why. I like it. I thought it was very, like, almost ahead of its time, because, like, the way that they just made, like, everything happen, like, I'm not gonna lie, the electric knife scene in the beginning, I still have nightmares. Whenever we go over to my grandparents for Thanksgiving, I leave the room during that, so... He traumatized me.
So it's a good moment with that. I like that. I mean, that's what you got to do. That's what good writing and good horror does. Is it scars you in ways that you won't forget. And Stephen King did that to me as well.
Exactly, and he was good for me to like get into the whole thing. Like lately, I've been trying to do I did Clive Barker for a while. I'm not the biggest fan, but I can appreciate what he's doing. Lately, I've been trying to get into. I tried Edgar Allan Poe, and it wasn't my cup of tea. Maybe I just need to try again later on. Because I find that's usually the case. If I'm not feeling something now, I just come back later. But like H.P. Lovecraft, I really like. Yeah, he's like I get what his stories are trying to do, but sometimes it almost just feels like a flex. Sometimes, like it's just him trying to put you in such a strange scenario, and like he gives you all these big words, and it's like I understand like that it's from those times and things like that, but to a degree, it almost just sounds like is it only relevant because of pop culture kind of thing. So I'm not the biggest turn on with Edgar Allan Poe, but I can appreciate it because I know he is one of the originators. So that's why I say I'm not a dislike person of him, but I feel like I'm just not maybe ready for what he's trying to tell me. Like H.P. Lovecraft took me some time to grow into because of how advanced it was.
Okay. I was going to say with Edgar Allan Poe, I've read a lot of his work. I have his complete, the book of his complete works or whatever it is called. And I've read a lot of his work. There's a lot of it that I'm just like, okay. And then there's certain ones I've read, like Cask of Amontillado. That's probably one of my favorites. I like Black Cat a lot. A lot of those ones stood out to me that I'm like, okay, that's horror way back in the day.
Yeah.
But some of the other ones I read, and I'm just like, I have no idea what the fuck this dude's telling me right now. I'm like, he just said a lot of gibberish that sounded cool. I'm like, but I don't actually know what the hell he's talking about. So I completely get what you're saying.
Yeah, because it's like, if I have to force myself to like want to really enjoy this, then I'm just not enjoying it. Like, I've been reading a lot of like off horror things just for the fun of it. Like, I just started reading The Hobbit. Because I never read that before, and neither have I seen the movies. But my girlfriend is absolutely a fan of it, so I was like, fine, let me hop on. So I'm really enjoying the book. I love the way he talks, so I'm learning a lot from him. Michael Crichton I also really liked. When I read the Jurassic Park novel, it like blew my mind, because I grew up with the movie, so I'm very familiar. But the book was so different, and it gave it so much more depth to like the humanity of it and like the mentality of all the characters, and it's just like. It changed the way that I approach stories, because I was like, oh, each of these characters is literally serving a purpose here. And it's just like, it's one of those things that like it should be obvious, but until it's obvious to you, it's not. It kind of goes over your head. So if that was like one of those stories that like brought me to. So it's like not entirely horror that gets me on. I kind of like the sci-fi because it's essentially horror, but they try and give it a way to be diffused with today's standards. So I like the hybrid kind of thing.
Okay. I have a book for you that you need to check out. Give me a second here. It's by... What the hell is his name? Pull it up. You just need to check it out if you're a fan of reading, fan of horror, fan of strange things. It's by Dathan. I'll just tell you the name of the book. It's called Pen Pal.
Okay.
And the name of the guy, his first name's Dathan, Dathan, and then the last name's Auerbach. Auerbach. Dathan Auerbach.
Okay.
Fucking weird book. You should read it, though. I enjoyed it. He did something very different. I read a lot of books. I read a lot of horror books. And this one, definitely, I did not know what the hell I was reading. Let's just put it that way. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but you should definitely check that out. Another one I would suggest checking out is they made recently into a Netflix movie, but I read it before I even knew this was happening, is The Ritual by Adam Neville.
Is that the one with the 4 guys are out in the woods?
Yes.
Dude, I loved that movie when it came out. I was so stoked on it. Like, the monster that they put in it, I was just so blown away by how they approached it. I really liked that.
They did a very good job on the movie, but let me tell you, the movie was like 1/20th of as good as the book.
Who wrote the book? Let me write this down.
Adam Neville.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an amazing book. I read it and it blew my fucking mind. It peeled my wig back, and then it was like 5-6 months after I read the book, ironically, which is really strange. All of a sudden, Netflix is like, here's The Ritual. Now, what's strange about all of that is my wife bought me that book randomly in a box of other older books. So she brought it home, and I just randomly grabbed that one and read it, and it was just weird that that book had already been out for a little while, and then boom, a Netflix series drops like right after I read it. It just was kind of peculiar, but when I read it, I read a lot of books, but when I read this one scared the shit out of me. Like, I read it, and I'm like, wow. A couple times I had to stop reading it for a second, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, that's fucking terrifying.
I'm definitely going to pick that up then.
And then I watched that. I really like what they did with it on Netflix. I think it's because I'm a camper. I'm someone who loves to go camping. I'm someone who loves to hike, and I go into the wilderness, and I've always been one who's gone deep into places by myself. And so when you read the book, and it's kind of put me into an element that I'm used to and familiar with, but it put me in an unfamiliar place. And that's all I'll say about it. But I definitely would read the 2 of those books if you're a big reader, as I am. I love horror novels. I love reading all kinds of people, and I definitely could throw some great books out at you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm definitely going to check that out. But going back to what you said about like the whole being in the woods thing and like how that's like something you're comfortable with and they give you the element that it's not. Like, as far as I've come to learn, like that's where the most effective horror is when you take the familiar and give it a reason to not be familiar. And then you kind of give these characters that you actually like give a shit about. And then they're forced to deal with a situation. And it's like, that's what horror at its core is kind of just taking the familiar and just flipping it on its head.
And it is, and it's a good, you just nailed it on the head by saying you want to give them a character that they care about.
Exactly.
Because when you give them someone that they actually kind of root for and then shit starts happening around them or to them, then it's gripping to them. When you give them a bunch of people that you're just like, I don't really care about any of these characters right now, it doesn't grip you as much whenever things start happening. But if you care about that character and then all of a sudden something really bad's happening in the book, you're like, oh shit, Dan, get out of there. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's what happened with like the Friday the 13th series. Is like it went from being like all about the kids to it hit a point where they were just giving you these tropes of characters and then you're rooting for the killer the whole time because you don't care about those characters. So it's like the psychology behind it is fucking genius.
Yeah, they can flip-flop it back and forth on you and use it how they want.
Exactly. And they can play with your emotions that way because art is at its form just trying to make you feel something. And that's what I really like about the horror genre is it's like the unfiltered approach to making you feel something, whether it's terror, whether it's happiness, whether it's like sadness, even if it's just you contemplating your own mortality. Like that's a feeling that you're getting from art, and that means it's effective.
Absolutely is. And I completely agree. No, I 100% agree. Now, I was looking at it, since we're talking about the horror right now, and we're talking about visual art and movies and books. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this next track we're going to go to commercial break on, which is Ditch Digger. Why don't you tell us about that and the music video that's coming up for it?
All right, so Ditch Digger, that's one of the tracks that survived the first go last year, and I was very happy with it because it's one of those songs where I just wrote the chorus one day just in the car when I heard the beat, and then the rest of it just kind of came too. And, at its core, it's just kind of your general, being the underdog kind of story. Like, pretty much about how no one ever expects much from you, and then you just do your best to just flip the tables. Or even when no one's paying attention to you, that's the best time to just do your thing and grow and hone your craft. So when you do come out of your cave and you give what you have to the world, they're just like, whoa, where the hell did you come out with this? So I was very happy with that song, and so I made it the debut single a few months back. There's a video for it on YouTube right now, the official music video. It was shot by Stalks Boogie of It That Betrays. Again, I do a shout out to those guys because they do a lot for the scene up here. So he helped me out with that, and it's just a basic video of just your general hip hop, just a couple kind of frames. So it's nothing like deep as far as like a story goes. I'm working on those kind of things, but I just wanted to have a visualization for a track because especially with the way that like social media is, like if you don't have something to get people's attention off the bat, no one gives a shit. You can be friends for 10 years, they don't give a shit unless you give them a reason to care. So I was like, if I have a video that's on YouTube and I just put that on Facebook, that is more enticing for people to hit click when they see my face and just click that video instead of like a link to like my Bandcamp, for example. Like people don't like clicking links and going out of their way. But if you give it right to them, there's really like no excuse. And that video I have seen the most response from out of all my tracks so far.
Good, that's what I like to hear, and that's what we're going to do right now is we're going to spoon feed you Ditch Digger here on Uncovering the Underground. We'll be back in just a couple moments.
One question. Yeah. When the tables have turned once, can they be unturned? These are the things I stay up late and I wonder. When you're under the spotlight and you start to get sunburned, you try to clap back, but they stealing your thunder. Cause it seems nobody wants you to succeed. It helps them itemize their own path of the greed. Without all the praise, they won't do the good deeds. These are not the kind of people that the world needs. They wait for me to repeat mistakes. They are skeptical to think that people will change. And now I'm on a stage taking shots at point blank range like a 12 gauge into Kurt Cobain's brain. Cause everything up till now was all on purpose. And that's why I stand here reciting my sermon. At the end of the day, you cannot get discouraged. Just learn to separate yourself from the vermin. They said that I'd amount to a ditch digger, but here's a switch hitter. I run on 6 cylinders. You're a stick figure while I paint the big picture. You think I'm a prisoner and really I'm the minister. They said that I'd amount to a ditch digger, but here's a switch hitter, you're a simpler mimicker. This is familiar, but your intentions are sinister. I'm a pillager, visiting your village to finish you. You're all fixated on making your peers clap. It's all a competition to get a career path. I just want to pay my dues and grow my beard back and prove to everyone that there is nothing to fear. Yeah, but you're all stuck, living in a hindsight, doing shit you don't want to with your lifetime. You live black and white, I'm representing tie-dye. You can tag in once you open up your mind's eye. Look within your filth, you will find the treasure. That's the object of our life's endeavors. Cause you can do what you want, you can be whatever. Just stop thinking that your day revolves around the weather. You've gotta start living it up, start giving a fuck. I've been moving independent, but you're a stick in the mud. Yeah, nobody saw me living in a position to trust, and now I'm the leader on a mission of love. They said that I'd amount to a ditch digger, but here's a switch hitter. I run on 6 cylinders. You're a stick figure while I paint the big picture. You think I'm a prisoner and really I'm the minister. They said that I'd amount to a ditch digger, but here's a switch hitter. You're a simpler mimicker. This is familiar, but your intentions are sinister. I'm a pillager, visiting your village to finish you. Now how exactly can I reenact the piece when it's sad to see your fabric of reality is practically falling apart like packaging factories? And I am actively reconstructing this masterpiece. It's explosive, thought-provoking and ferocious, with ideas widespread out like roaches. So take notice to the patterns and motions set in place, ride them out just like coaches. The fact of the matter is I'm not the average rapper. I don't pitter or patter while you sit and jibber jabber, and I spit it faster than a fucking master attacker while you're gagging after you bit off a cinnamon cracker. Now this bit of disaster is a bit of a drag, but I got the stamina to go hard for the camera. You think you got moves, you're not a natural actor. I'll scream abracadabra and then there's your cadaver. They said that I'd amount to a ditch digger, but here's a switch hitter. I run on 6 cylinders. You're a stick figure while I paint the big picture. You think I'm a prisoner when really I'm the minister. They said that I'd amount to a ditch digger,
But here's a switch hitter, you're a simpler mimicker. This is familiar, but your intentions are sinister. I'm a pillager, visiting your village to finish you.
And we're back on Uncovering the Underground radio podcast show. That was Ditch Digger by Mike Cleopatra, who's our guest on the show tonight. Real quick, I did want to throw out there, if you were looking for any upcoming show news, Brutal Business, nationwide, please check out www.teambrutalbusiness.com. Again, that's www.teambrutalbusiness.com. I forgot to mention that earlier. Reason I do mention that is there's a lot of different events coming up that we're throwing, whether it be music or professional wrestling events. We do have a lot of things happening right now inside the Brutal Business Camp. So make sure you check that out and go to events near you soon. One of the ones I did want to bring up specifically is the wrestling event that we have coming up, which I had it up on the chart here, and the shit froze. So I apologize, but I'm pulling that back up right now for you guys. And that is this weekend. That is going to be held at the Ellamore Fire Department in Ellamore, West Virginia. That is going to be Brawl 5, and that is by Code Red Wrestling and Brutal Business Entertainment Wrestling. They got a great lineup coming up this weekend. Make sure you get out to the show and check it out. And then, like I said, we have about 15 other shows on the site that you can check out, including our Horror Con that's coming up early next year. Be hype about that. That's one of our brand new announcements. We are hosting the after party for Horror Realms Horror Con in Pittsburgh. So come kick it with all the horror stars and Brutal Business Entertainment artists. And let's go ahead and jump back into it. That is Ditch Digger, like I said. And what was the overall reaction you said from that song? That was your biggest one so far as crowd participation?
Yeah, so that's, like I said, that was the single that I put out, I believe, either the middle of July or the beginning of August. I think it was July. But that's the one that's got about 300 or so views right now. So out of all the pieces I got, that is definitely the one that people seem to be responding to the most. I got that song on one of those Blogspot leak pages for all your regular music that comes out, and they actually ended up posting it. And I had random people that I've never even met commenting on it, saying that they were stoked to hear the release come out. So that seems to be a crowd pleaser for sure.
Good. That's what I like to see. And just the more you push it, the more people that'll pay attention, man. I can tell you that. I remember starting out myself quite a long time ago and just watching the fan base build over the years, and it's truly amazing thing. The more you push, the more fans you reach, the bigger places, the better places you reach. It's just a nonstop drive. It's all about drive.
And that's also why I figured if I put it out for free, it would also hit a lot more people, because, if I'm somebody that no one's ever heard of, they don't want to give me, $15-20 for a CD. But when it's free, you really can't argue. You're going to check it out, and if you don't like the first two songs, then yeah, you just delete it. But at least I tried,
No, absolutely. And I started out many, many years ago at this point, but it was handing out mixtapes to people. That was what we did. It's free mixtapes, just signed mixtapes. Here you go. Here's a CD. Check us out. A lot of people listened. A lot of people probably threw it away. But you know what? We're willing to take a loss and lose a little bit of money, push our name until it slowly spread, and it works. It's just it's steady. It's not a quick race. It's a steady one.
Yeah, it's an old school formula, and it's still working today. The internet makes it a little bit faster, but you still have to go for that old school approach.
Well, it just makes it different. It doesn't. It does make it more of a wide variety that you can reach out to now because of the internet. But now, because of the internet, there's 100 times more people making music.
Correct.
So now it's the same thing. Now you got this great tool that we once didn't have, but now this great tool has caused 10 times the amount of work again to shine through it. So really, at the end of the day, it's the same thing.
Exactly. So it is kind of like a washout, but at the same time, even though there's 1,000 people now, let's just say in one area, all doing the same thing, if you have your own genuine sound and you're being you and you're not trying to play a character that everybody else is chasing after, you'll stand out from the pack. And once you find that audience, you will hold that audience instead of, finding a big audience and then immediately losing them because you're a replaceable sound. So I feel like that's a good approach. And I know that's how your music goes too, because you're kind of just doing your thing. And you're not trying to cater to one category. You're just doing you, and you're finding the people that like you and they're sticking with you. So you're kind of proof of that formula working.
Yeah, I mean, you just gotta do you, man. The thing is, like I said, I don't try to sound like anything. I let the song write itself. If it comes out horrorcore, great. If it comes out hip hop and uplifting, some of my stuff has absolutely no swearing in it at all, and it's uplifting and beautiful. And some of my stuff's absolutely terrifying and brutal. And why would anybody make anything like this? It just depends on the mood and depends on what's crafted from that feeling and from that beat. But you gotta be true to yourself and let it all come out. You can't confine yourself. If you put yourself in a box, then you put yourself in a box.
Exactly. And like everyone always said growing up, real recognize real, right?
That's it, man. That's absolutely it. Now, I wanted to talk about a couple other things that you got going on, and I wanted to go into a lightning round of some really funny questions.
All right.
You are also recently kind of connected with my company, Brutal Business Entertainment. We have, for those of you guys out there that did not know yet, we did launch our horror column called The Gruesome Gazette. And whenever I came up with that idea to try to really get some good horror content out there to people, I had to find some good writers and some people that wanted to be a part of that community, and Mike was one of those people. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that project and what that is and what you've been doing involved with that?
All right, so the Gruesome Gazette is simply just a horror blog spot. It's a combination of movie reviews and discussion topics. As of right now, there is myself and 2 other contributors, and then there's also one person who is joining us who is going to be specializing in special effects makeup. So we're kind of trying to cover a bunch of different ground with it. It's still in its infancy, but it's doing pretty well so far. We've gotten some pretty good reception. We've sparked some good conversations. I know like this week alone, we had a conversation about the psychology of the Saw movies with like the music and everything. We had reviews for It Chapter 2, which, is still a brand new movie. So if you are on the fence and you hear mixed reviews, we've got a really well thought out article on that. So you can go ahead and see what we think of it. And then just yesterday, I get every Wednesday, I posted last night, I called it Apples to Oranges, which is a comparison. And I debated the differences between the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the 1974 version versus the 2003, talking about just like the different style of it, the approach, things that I felt like one did better than the other. It's entirely just my opinion, so it is just my subjective look at it. But it's for what it's worth. Here's my 2 cents, take it or leave it kind of thing. So I really like that the approach is kind of carefree. It's really just whatever we want to do with it. Like if I watch a movie randomly in Shudder, or like I said, I buy a bunch, and if I see one that I'm just like, wow, I'm going to watch this again, I'll go ahead and just write a nice review just to try and get it out there. Likewise, I saw a movie that was absolutely horrible, and I wrote a review just to make sure nobody ever watches it. I haven't posted that one yet, but like it's whatever I'm feeling. I wrote a good review for Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark a few weeks back. That was, I think, my first article. And then all my friends that saw the movie all came up and they're like, hey, man, like, we hated that movie. So it's, it is whatever it is, but I try to at least explain my views on it. So that way, if you're on the fence, maybe it could push you one way or the other kind of thing. I try to be honest because, we're not getting paid to do this. It's really just us doing it out of our love for the craft. So, we're kind of at this point just doing whatever we feel like.
Yeah, and it's a great thing to get out to the people. I mean, if you're a fan of horror and you love listening to people's ideas and views on past releases, maybe upcoming releases, everything across the board from movie reviews to updated news of recent releases and new releases, special effects makeup, all of that's involved in the Gruesome Gazette. So you can check that out by going to Facebook and searching the Gruesome Gazette. Check these guys' articles out. They're doing a great job. I enjoyed several of them because I don't get a lot of time to watch movies like I once did. So I have been reading all their articles on some of the movies I've been missing out on, and it's planting some seeds in my brain like, damn it, I need to get out and see these. Or I need to rent one of them and see them. It's just finding the time is scarce. But make sure you check that out, folks. It's definitely something pretty cool that we're building up. And as Mike said, it's in its infancy right now, but you fast forward down the road a little bit, it'll be much bigger. I guarantee you that. So stick around and check it out. Now, I wanted to ask you some funny questions. I always try to get into a little section of just strange, off-the-wall things, kind of pick your brain and see who you are as a person. So,
right.
if someone gave you an elephant and you weren't able to give it away or sell it, what would you do with it?
Now we're talking about a full-size elephant or like a baby elephant?
A full-size elephant. You're given just a big, enormous elephant. Someone just gives it to you, but the problem is you are not allowed to give it away, and you are not allowed to sell it. What do you do with this elephant?
Unfortunately, I have a cop-out answer for this. The town I grew up in actually has a zoo, literally like not even a mile away from my house. So I would just give it to them.
But you can't give it away, though.
Oh, you're right. I can't give it away. Well, in that case, I would just have to raise it as my own. I'd probably give it a cool name. I couldn't do Dumbo, obviously, because that's too, everybody would do that. But I'd probably just call him like Floppy Ears or, something like that. But yeah, no, I would definitely have to take him as my own because, I love animals. I can't just let him be. Especially because I live in upstate New York. There's definitely nowhere an elephant can just hang out in the woods and do well. So I would definitely have to take him under my wing and, teach him how to shave and, all the growing up things you have to do.
All right, I like it. I like it. Now, okay, now I guess the second one, let me pull one out here. What do I want to ask? Why is it that manholes are round?
I'm going to assume because the first time they made it square, it was too small, and the person got claustrophobic. Whereas when it's circular, psychologically, it doesn't seem as imprisoning because it's not box-shaped. So if you were to get stuck in a manhole underneath it, you would not panic as much to get out of it. Because we do know that men are not circular, so I don't think it's for that reason.
Okay, I like it. You went philosophical with it. And then, what are your thoughts on lawn gnomes?
On lawn gnomes. Okay, so they're definitely sentient, so you better respect them whenever you come across one. My mother has one. I make sure to try and do like a smile or a head nod every time just because. But they're definitely sentient. In fact, I believe that everything is sentient. Even if it's not something that interacts like a piece of plastic, you still should respect it because that's kind of the law of nature. You get what you give. So I do believe that lawn gnomes are conspiring to do something big, just the same as like squirrels are. But since they are, confined, and I believe they only move by moonlight, so I believe that they're up to something. But again, if you give them the peace and respect that every living creature is entitled to, they will leave you out of it, and in fact might even come to you for help one day. So that's my piece on lawn gnomes.
I like it. I need to have a piece on lawn gnomes. As some of you guys out there might know, we do have a second show here at Brutal Business, which is called Celestial Oddities, and that show itself splits in between two different shows. So you have Celestial Oddities, Pair of Normal Guys podcast, which is me and my co-host Daniel James, and then you have the second portion, which is just me by myself, which is called Celestial Oddities Oddworld Listeners Experiences, and we have people talk about their different experiences. We were talking about that on one of the commercial breaks, but there's a lot of strange things like that. Now, not necessarily lawn gnomes. I don't know if we would have a show about that, but there are some things that we have researched of creatures like lawn gnomes that actually do move in the moonlight, like actual gnomes. And there's some reports out there on that, so that might be something we have to bring up on a show, because as you know, or if you don't know, the show is about everything from ghosts and demons to cryptids to aliens to interdimensional portals and everything in between. So if you're into that type of stuff, make sure you check out the other show. And we're going to have to get Mike on that show as well sometime to talk over some philosophical ideas and some very strange out-of-the-box items.
Oh, I'd love to be a part of that.
It's a good time. We have a fun time talking about a lot of things. Like I said, we have some fun episodes coming up on some strange topics. And I think next week, folks, Wednesday, I believe, which would be the 18th, we should be airing the next episode of the Oddworld series, and that is going to be listeners' experiences. And we got some good ones. I got some strange stories that are going to be coming to you next week, so make sure you stick around for them. Now, one of the things I normally ask every artist that comes onto the show, or every guest, if you could have all of the time back that you've invested into the different crafts that you've been doing, and you could have all of that back to reuse for something that you haven't yet used it for, what is it that you would do with all that time and energy that you spent putting into your art and your music, into your filmmaking and writing, all of that? If you could have it all back, what would you put it into?
Well, as I said in my second song on the album, if I could go back in time and do it again, there is not a single thing that I would do different. But going off the theory of, let's say I'm going to, for your question, if I took all the time I put into my art and put it into something else, I mean, the art is how I grow as a person, so I couldn't do that. Honestly, I'd probably invested in like either doing a lot of work just to make money to try and go into the woods. Because as you said, with you want like hiking, like I like going into the desolation of the woods because I can feel the energy of everything out there, and I just, it's very comforting. My girlfriend and I, we try and make that almost like a weekly thing. We just go and hang out in the woods for a few hours. So if I could take back all the time I spent on something and I had to do something else with it, I'd probably put more time into nature because it's definitely something that makes my soul feel happy.
I'm glad to hear that, man. I'm a big nature guy myself. I am a lover of the forest and of animals and of trees. Call me a tree hugger if you will, but I love trees. I love just nature itself. And there's nothing better than spending time with nature and becoming a little bit more one with it, because unfortunately these days people are too distant from the world that they live on. I try to be a little bit more connected.
Agreed.
Now, something else I always ask everybody that's on the show is, if you could, what's the one thing that you don't regret doing, but you would never do it again? So you've done it, you don't regret doing it, but you look back and you're like, wow, I would never do that again. And that can be either personally or that can be in the music industry or artistic industry. What would it be?
That's a bit of a tricky question. Off the top of my head, if I had to pick one, it would be that I did go to college and, that's whatever. It's not necessary kind of thing. But I went for music industry. So my thought was I'd get a job at a record label kind of thing. And I did after an internship. But they put me like in the back room and I was not having it. I was like, this is not what I thought it would be. So if I could go back and do something different, I'd probably pursue something that would be more, it would make more sense economically, like something that would give me money so I don't have to worry about money in my life, because I'd like to focus on my craft 100%, but unfortunately the way that things are, you have to do both kind of things. So if I could go back, I'd probably pick a different profession that would make me not have to worry about that part of life.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, college and going for things, that's the thing is, too, if you do it and you don't really end up in the field that you were in, you kind of kick yourself in the ass because you're like, I went through this whole experience only to not be able to use it and have to use it somewhere else. No, in this case, you got the knowledge from it, but you didn't get the employment from it that you were hoping for.
Exactly. So like I learned like I can go in the studio now and not waste my time because I don't understand things. Like I know what I'm doing. I know the slang. So I can go in and make good use of my time. Same thing with like me editing my own videos now and things like that. Like I just put out a music video for Honeybee last week. I edited that myself. My girlfriend shot most of that footage. And we literally just went out for a day or two and just filmed really beautiful things in nature, like with all these beautiful patterns. So I just took the knowledge I took from all my marketing and just tried to make a nice, presentable video. And I'm just trying to use it in ways that I can, since, like you said, I couldn't really pursue that.
Oh, makes sense to me. Makes sense to me, absolutely. Now, another question I ask everybody that's on the show is, if you had to choose an animal that, if animals were to rise up and they were to take over everything, what animal would ultimately be the ruler of them all and why?
Which animal would be the ruler of them all if they rose up?
Exactly. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean, like, my one guest took it a little bit further than I meant, and he's like, if they become, like, super beasts and they're, like, running around with minds and talking and stuff like that. That's one way of looking at it. That's not what I meant. It's just like if the animals, like, somehow were to turn against each other and it was, like, everyone for themselves right now in a regular world, what animal would ultimately end up being the king of all the animals and why?
That's a good one.
And I never got the same answer twice. It's always an interesting question.
So are you looking at like what would naturally become the king, or like what I would want to be the king? Because those are two different answers.
Well, not necessarily what you want, but what you think would be, because we've gotten very different answers. We've gotten things from your typical lion or like tiger to things such as fire ants.
Oh man, I didn't even consider the whole insect species. I mean, insects are very, very alien, so I'm sure that if they ever feel like taking over, they just straight up will. Especially because wasps and mosquitoes are. If a wasp was, the size of an actual Beedrill from Pokemon, that would be absolutely fucking terrifying. So
That's true. It would be.
So if we're going for something that's a little more surreal, I would say the insects. If we're walking out and it's today's world just uplifted, I'd probably say bears. Just because even with me being in the woods, a bear is the only thing that if I came face to face with, I would personally probably shit my pants. Everything else I could figure out, but bears just, I know like they're not out to do harm kind of thing, but it's just their presence is just so strong, It's just...
It's funny because actually last week me and my wife were on vacation down in Tennessee, and we actually seen several bears while we were down there. The night before we left, came into contact with about 4 of them. It was a mother and 3 cubs. 2 of the cubs were younger and looked like they were both right around the same age. The other one was a little bit older, and they were walking around, and they were like probably about 10 feet from us. So when we walked out of our cabin and I was taking trash, I looked up. There was one right on the hillside standing right at me. And it was a cub, but he was still pretty big. And then she was standing right down the road from us. So it was pretty cool. You're saying about seeing bears. I just got done seeing some about 5 days ago. So it was pretty cool.
So you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. I wasn't afraid though. I don't know. I never feared much in nature. Now, if it would have started charging me, you're fucking right. I would have been scared. But I just kept a cool head and just doing my thing. I still took the trash out, came back in the cabin. I left them alone. They left me alone. Same thing with bees. People always were afraid of bees, but the truth be told is if you don't really mess with them, in most cases you're okay. And for instance, I used to be heavy into construction and did that as a career. And we used to rip into a lot of roofs and be replacing the roof on a home, and we would rip into a piece of plywood, and there'd be like a hornet's nest or a bee's nest, and then they would come out and start frenzying and flying around. Well, a lot of people would really get like worked up right away as soon as they seen the bees coming up, like oh shit, and start to try to run from it or they'd swing something at it. They would get the shit stung out of them. Well, what I learned is take a deep breath. Keep that breath in, remain calm, and slowly start walking away from the bees, and they'll leave you alone. I don't know how many times I ripped into a roof, and bees started flying out and going all over the place, and I would literally stand still, and there'd be like 100 of them flying around me, and I would just be standing there, holding my breath, and very calm, and I would walk towards like the ladder, or walk towards the edge of the roof, and climb down, and I didn't get stung.
Ah.
It's all about mind. It's all about control. Now, don't get me wrong. There could be a time when I bump into one and they just sting the shit out of me. But it just, for the most part, it worked. Is just staying calm and keeping that mind.
Yeah, man, because that's just like the rule of nature. Is like everything's just doing its thing. So if you just give it the respect that it in turn wants to give you, everything's cool. You're always going to have your rogue dicks like you have with people. Like, you have hornets and mosquitoes. They kind of just have their own agenda. But like your average honeybee and stuff like that, like they're beautiful. Like they're just doing their thing, which is very important, actually. So I do agree with you. But you have taught me that if I ever come encounter and I start to lose my cool like that, I'll take your advice.
Now, ants, on the other hand, fuck them.
Well, dude, they're aliens for sure. Like, have you ever looked at their faces?
By them before. Yeah, they are alienistic looking, and I unfortunately got attacked heavily by a pack of not fire ants but red ants when I was younger.
Oh, are you allergic?
I'm not really allergic, but definitely it's swelling up at that point because I got bit 130 times. So it's pretty extreme. Yeah, all around my top shoulders and neck area. It was pretty interesting. It was when I was playing football. The team told us to stick our equipment over on the other side before the game was where our workout area was. Well, they didn't tell us that over there was a massive amount of red ants hills.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, fucking assholes. And we were over there and we were doing our workouts and push-ups and shit before the game, and all of a sudden I got bitten and then I got attacked by a bunch. And by the end of the day, we got them all, got them off me and got to the doctor. By the end of the day, and ended up finding out that I got, 130 some bites across my neck. And it's all swollen up. And tell you what, them little fuckers hurt. Them things suck. So fuck them. But bees, on the other hand, do like the bees. Honeybees, as you said, are very important, and unfortunately having some hard times right now. Hopefully they are on the rise. Again, I've seen some articles that says that they are starting to see an increase into them because of people getting involved.
Good. Fingers crossed on that.
Absolutely, I agree. But yeah, it's just we live in a world where things are fucked up, and a lot of beautiful animals, a lot of things like that are going away because people don't respect the planet and respect the wildlife out there. As you were just talking about. It's just that's unfortunate that that we live in a world where that's not something that people take more concern in, is the nature around us and the animals around us.
It's because everything's disposable, man. Everything's fast on the internet. Everything is instant. So like everyone just, if it's not within their immediate grasp, they don't care. It's outside of their world. But it's something that's happening. It's something that just exists. Like the most you can do is just leave it the hell alone. If you're not going to help it, just leave it alone.
I agree, because it seems like everybody nowadays is puppets, and I think that's kind of a great segue into the last song of yours for the night, because we need to get jumping into that because we're getting close to the end. And that song called Puppet Master, it kind of just makes me think that everybody is puppets nowadays. They're all sunk into their phone. They're not really caring about much else other than what's at their fingertips, and that's the world that we've kind of created for ourselves in the last decade or two.
Exactly. It's a choice, man. Freedom is really just a state of mind. So it's entirely your choice if that's the game you want to play. And if so, all respect, whatever. But as long as you're aware of what you're kind of doing. But I feel like once you're aware, that you're not going to want to partake in that anymore.
Why don't you go ahead and give us a shout out into this song, and we'll go ahead and get it started.
All right. Well, first off, I want to thank you, Skippy, for having me on here. This was a great opportunity, and I'm glad to be involved with everything you're doing. Keep in touch for sure. In this last piece, it's called Puppet Master. It's also known as the String Theory. And I hope you enjoy it.
All right. You heard it from the man himself. This is Puppet Master, and we'll be right back on Uncovering the Underground.
If I had $1 every time they said they doubt me, I'd be able to buy all of these snakes that surround me. I try to feel astounding, even when it's cloudy, and that is why I identify as a foundling. These haters always knock everything I ever said. You will never appreciate the things I represent, and so it's not my fault if you deny my medicine. I don't go uninvited, you just gotta let us in. I'm only doing this not for my endorphins. You better watch your mouth before you summon the 4 horsemen, cause it's time I'm kicking your door in with no warning, as I snatch your chain and eat your porridge. Yeah, until I am dead, I won't be truly respected. Just another posthumous artist at best then. But unlike the rest, I'm a worthy investment, cause if you don't got a message, then I don't pay attention. Nope. Puppet on a string, just a puppet on a string. Watch real closely and you'll see what I mean. A puppet on a string, just a puppet on a string. They can make you do anything. A puppet on a string, just a puppet on a string. Everything's to try and please the queen bee. A puppet on a string, just a puppet on a string. If you want to be free, come on out the mainstream. We live in separate worlds and mine can't be deciphered unless you've seen the power of the higher inside you. Like a warlock through the logs, I'm starting the fire. The pressure of the soldier, cutting the wire. I'm riding through the sky on a rainbow serpent. You're riding on a hearse with no way to preserve it. Whatever you receive, I hope you know you deserve it, because that's what you get when you live as an observant. So take it to heart and stay out of my forest. I'm dancing around the fire with a woman so gorgeous, performing rituals that most consider historic, to bring out the best of what I feel is important. I'm writing from the heart just because I am an artist. No matter what you throw at me, the first it was the hardest. Call me the marksman cause I always hit my target. The wordsmith spitting curses on the heartless. Puppet on a string, just a puppet on a string. Watch real closely and you'll see what I mean. A puppet on a string, just a puppet on a string. They can make you do anything. A puppet on a string, just a puppet on a string. Everything's to try and please the queen bee. A puppet on a string, just a puppet on a string. If you want to be free, come on out the mainstream. I'm staring at the void and I see my reflections. My thoughts are pulling me in multiple directions. The only arrow that I like is pointing towards ascension. That is the epiphany that's sprung from the lesson. Cause life is a never-ending series of tension. You start feeling like you're in animated suspension, getting whipped around from incepted dimensions to enjoy
enjoy the gift of today in the present. I had to face demons just to start progressing. I had to face issues that I wasn't addressing to get to the point where I stopped with the questions and accepted every opportunity as a blessing. The suffering is beauty when it isn't resentment, and all your negativity has been neglected. So listen to the words that are forming the sentence and tell me, do I finally have your attention? Puppet on a string, just a puppet on a string. Watch real closely and you'll see what I mean. A puppet on a string, just a puppet on a string. They can make you do anything. A puppet on a string, just a puppet on a string. Everything's to try and please the queen bee. A puppet on a string, just a puppet on a string. If you want to be free, come on out the mainstream.
And that was Puppet Master, also called String Theory, by Mike Cleopatra, and that was off his brand new mixtape that dropped last night. Make sure you check it out on YouTube, on you said YouTube, Bandcamp, and DapTiff, and pick up a copy of that. Download it; it is free. Drop a couple bucks in the donation jar, so to speak. Hit that donate button and give him some money to help him continue to write more music. Help with his book and all the great things he's doing right now. And before we finish up for the night, if you are listening, hit the share button, share this episode around, tell your family member and friends. If you missed a little bit at the beginning, after the show is over, it'll let you go back and re-listen to it and stream it. Right now it's still on live mode, so you are listening to us live. But you can go back and stream that and listen to it later times. Check out other old episodes and future episodes coming up. We have a lot of great artists on the show, and we air to you every Thursday night. Before we wrap up tonight's show, we're going to let Mike tell you where you can check his music out at, and also give you some shout-outs.
So you can find all my works on Facebook at facebook.com/MikeCleopatraNY. I have a Bandcamp, which is just mikecleopatra.bandcamp.com. As Skippy mentioned, I am dropping it on DatPiff. It's not available just yet, but if you look next week, you should be able to find it. I do have a SoundCloud. That's just simply Mike Cleopatra. And then as far as YouTube goes, I do have the entire album up for stream. It's just one coherent playlist. You just hit play and it's good to go. My channel name on that is Foundling Entertainment, which is kind of what my media output is kind of under the umbrella term of. So again, that is Foundling Entertainment. If you just look for Mike Cleopatra and just look for Ditch Digger or Honeybee, you're guaranteed to find it. I just want to give a shout out quick to all my friends and family that still support me and are joining me on my journey. I can't say how much I appreciate you guys. A big shout out to my girlfriend Lauren. She's been very supportive and she's been pushing me to become a better person, which in turn is making me have better music. I love you and thank you for that. I want to give a shout out to my friends in Confused Products Media and 2236 crew. You guys are killing it. You do great things for the scene, and I thank you for having me be a part of the things that you guys do. And that's pretty much it for me. I hope you guys have a great day and a good life.
Absolutely. Well, like we said, we appreciate having you on the show. If you're listening out there, make sure you tune in to our upcoming shows. We have next week, the 19th, we have a band by the name of Primate. They're actually on my label, Brutal Business Entertainment. Great band here in the Pittsburgh area. The following weekend, the 26th, we have Delirious Living Evil, which is an amazing hip-hop artist. You definitely need to check out his music if you haven't already. The following week, which is September 3rd, we have Zach Shepard from A Common Crown and After the Fall, which are two very large rock metal bands. So make sure you check into the show and all of our great upcoming artists. Make sure you check out the past ones. Check out www.teambrutalbusiness.com for all your upcoming shows, news, model releases, music, merch, and more. And as always, click the like button and share. As I said, it helps us with the ranks, helps us grow up the ranks and be able to do bigger and better things. We appreciate you listening tonight. We love you. And Mike Cleopatra, we appreciate you having you on the show tonight, homie. You have a wonderful evening. We'll talk to you again soon.
And you as well, Skippy. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You have a good night.
And you as well, my friend.